Chapter 35-24. A beautiful romance. What was there to fight? Ling Han seemed to be casually waving his warhammer, but every move was able to restrain Lu Haiyuan. There was not a trace of anger, and it was extremely easy. This everyone was speechless. Lu Haiyuan was the disciple of a spirit transformation expert, and he was also an enlightening realm cultivator. But now, he was being played around by an engravement realm cultivator. Who could believe it? Stop! Jin Yulu shouted. If they continued fighting, Lu Haiyuan would definitely lose, and his loss would not only be a personal loss, but also a loss of face for a spirit transformation expert. Therefore, she had to step forward and stop the fight. Lu Haiyuan retreated, but how could Ling Han let him off so easily? He chased after him. Ling Han, don't be so overbearing. Hong Tianbu humphed coldly and struck out with a palm strike. Hong, a powerful force surged over, forcing Ling Han to have no choice but to stop. He was still unable to defeat a secret-seeking expert, and Hong Tianbu was a 2 or even 3-star genius. His battle strength was far stronger than an ordinary secret-seeking expert. Hong Tianbu, you dare to obstruct the External Affairs Division? Are you openly committing treason? Ling Han coldly said. He had lost all patience with Hong Tianbu. Hong Tianbu sneered, "What right do you have to be one of the 2 prides of the imperial capital? From now on, there will only be me, Hong Tianbu." Jin Yulu also spoke at the right time and said, "Then let's fight. Whoever wins will be the only prodigy." Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. What a joke. A secret-seeking expert wants to challenge me to a showdown. Your cultivation progress is slow. Who can you blame? Hong Tianbu sneered and walked towards Ling Han. Ling Han immediately activated absolute fairness, but a ferocious aura rippled out from Hong Tianbu's body, shattering the control of absolute fairness and rendering it ineffective. Hong Tianbu proudly smiled. He had already completely merged with the primordial fierce beast's eye, which was at least a true monarch. How could it be affected by a formation below the immortal path? Ling Han, have you given up all hope? Hong Tianbu sneered. Hongtan step. With a delicate shout, Princess Bai Xiao stepped forward and stood in front of Ling Han. So it's Princess Bai Xiao. Hong Tianbu revealed a smile. He used to admire this demon clan princess, but with the appearance of Jin Yulu his thoughts changed. This monster princess was not worthy of him. At most, she would be his plaything. Naturally, he didn't need to spend much effort on toys. This is a battle between me and Ling Han to become the #1 prodigy of the imperial capital. It's not appropriate for the princess to interfere, Hong Tianbu said indifferently. He didn't care about Princess Bai Xiao at all. After merging with the primordial beast's eye, he was already a 3-star genius. Which secret realm expert could be his opponent? Princess Bai Xiao scoffed and said, Hong Tianbu, you publicly betrayed your country and still want to fight for the title of Heaven's Pride. What a joke. Hong Tianbu's expression darkened. He didn't want to offend the Chun clan at the moment. After all, Chen Fengyan was at the Life Dan realm, or even stronger. He was an old monster at the True Self realm. Most importantly, his future master had yet to come out of the cage. What if Chen Fengyan was really angered and killed him? Princess Bai Xiao, do you really want to stop me from fighting with Ling Han? Hong Tianbu said indifferently. He avoided the topic of betrayal. There was nothing to argue about. The more they argued, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Then I can only offend you. He reached out to grab Princess Bai Xiao. Princess Bai Xiao merely flicked her finger lightly. Peng Hong Tianbu was blasted flying, and then he crashed heavily onto the ground with an extremely loud sound. Everyone's mouths were wide open. They couldn't believe their eyes at all. How was this possible? Hong Tianbu was actually sent flying with a flick of someone's finger. Hong Tianbu struggled to get up. There was a bloody hole on his right shoulder, and fresh blood was flowing out. His face was also filled with shock. He couldn't believe that Princess Bai Xiao's strength had reached such a height. Clap, clap, clap. Crisp applause sounded. Jin Yulu stood up. I didn't think that the demon race's princess would be the first person of the younger generation to step onto the celestial path. Congratulations, Congratulations. What? Princess Bai Xiao had stepped onto the celestial path? Everyone was shocked. Although there were now not only Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators, but even Cauldron Forging Realm and Core Formation Realm cultivators had appeared, they had all come out of the cage. Only the Demon Emperor and Chen Fengyan had broken through under the current circumstances. In reality, Chen Fengyan was also an ancient person. Only the Demon Emperor had truly broken through under the current circumstances. Now, with the addition of the Demon Race's princess, it could indeed prove that the Demon Race's level of life below the celestial path was higher than that of the human race. Hong Tianbu was also stunned. So Princess Bai Xiao had actually leaped over the celestial door and became a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. No wonder she could send him flying with a flick of her finger. This was the difference between celestial and mortal. No matter how monstrous he was, it was useless. Even if he had merged with the eyes of 10 primordial vicious beasts, it was still not enough. Losing to Princess Bai Xiao was not an injustice, and there was no need for him to feel humiliated. Hong Tianbu, do you admit defeat? Princess Bai Xiao stood with her hands behind her back, ignoring Jin Yulu's words. This was a kind of attitude. So what if you are a disciple of the spirit transformation realm? I don't care about you. Jin Yulu snorted. Princess Bai Xiao, although the Foundation Establishment Realm is the first step on the celestial path, it is still far from being a strong cultivator. It is more than enough to suppress you. This time, Princess Bai Xiao did not pretend that she did not hear it. Is that so? Jin Yulu raised her hand and threw out a small doll. Xiao, the doll quickly enlarged, becoming as tall as 2 people. It was extremely lifelike, but this was not the important point. The important point was that this doll held a long blade in its hand, and it emitted an extremely fierce aura, as if it could even pierce a hole in the sky. War Colossus Ling Han had one in his hands, so he could immediately determine that this was a War Colossus. Because of the craftsmanship of the War Colossus, there were definitely strong and weak ones. This one might not be able to sweep through the Foundation Establishment Realm, but Princess Bai Xiao had just broken through, so how strong could she be in the Foundation Establishment Realm? Sure enough, Jin Yulu had aggressively brought people into the capital. She did not just rely on the reputation of a spirit transformation realm expert, but she did indeed have a great killing weapon in her hands. Princess Bai Xiao smiled faintly. Her Majesty has the breadth of mind to accommodate the world. Since you admire the prosperity of the capital, I will allow you to temporarily stay, but if you violate the laws of the empire, you will be dealt with according to the laws of the empire and then expelled from the capital. Sir Palace Master, what do you think? She looked at Ling Han. Everyone was envious. They had long heard that Ling Han had an unusual relationship with the demon race princess, and looking at the scene in front of them, it was undoubtedly true. Princess Bai Xiao was not only an absolute beauty, she was also the first person in the younger generation to step onto the celestial path. Who would not be envious to be able to have such a beauty? This lucky bastard. Chapter 35-25. Ling Han smiled faintly, and his eyes swept over Jin Yulu and the others. He did not even spare Hong Tianbu a glance and calmly said, "You all better behave yourselves. If you do anything illegal, the External Affairs Department will definitely not be polite. Let's go." He waved his hand. Princess Bai Xiao immediately followed and the two left. The atmosphere at the scene was very oppressive. After a while, some people immediately said that they had something to do and needed to go back to deal with it, while others said that they were not feeling well and needed to be treated immediately. Soon, there were only less than a third of the people left in this place. Jin Yulu's beautiful eyes were filled with anger. Her hands were tightly gripping the armrests of the chair, and her entire body was shrouded in coldness. At this point, even if the martial art festival continued, could it still be called a festival? It was a complete joke. All of this was because of Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao. In this confrontation, it could be said that Ling Han and the others had a slight advantage. Although she had managed to hold on in the end, and had not lost everything, it still could not be denied that their momentum had been suppressed. Otherwise, most of the people would not have run away. Everyone was wondering if the External Affairs Department was so domineering because of Qin Fengyan's attitude. After all, perfected spirit transformation had not appeared yet. If Qin Fengyan really wanted to settle the score, who could stop him? Hong Tianbu's expression was also not good. He had long established a relationship with perfected spirit transformation in the cage. This time, the martial art festival was to create momentum for him, but in the end, it was completely destroyed by Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao. This detestable guy. However, Princess Bai Xiao was actually the first to charge into the immortal path. This shocked him. Even though the environment had changed greatly, it was still very difficult to charge into the immortal path. Even in the previous civilization, only 1 out of 100 people charged into the immortal path. Even if they succeeded, at least half of them would not be able to withstand the heaven and earth interrogation Dao heart, and their souls would be annihilated. Therefore, it was really too difficult to become an expert of the immortal path. He had to leap over the immortal gate as soon as possible. Otherwise, no matter how monstrous he would still be like an ant in front of Princess Bai Xiao. This was the difference between an immortal and a mortal. Lord Manor Lord, are you satisfied with Bai Xiao's performance? Once they were out of the door, Princess Bai Xiao immediately smiled at Ling Han to ask for praise. 100 points. I'm not afraid that you'll become arrogant even if I give you 10 more points, Ling Han said with a smile. Then when will you teach me the demon monkey fist? Princess Bai Xiao moved closer to him. Ling Han gave an his face full of confusion. What's the demon monkey fist? This guy is too shameless. He actually pretended not to know anything. Princess Bai Xiao was speechless. Even if Ling Han came up with some other excuse, she could still coax and pester him. However, Ling Han was so shameless that she didn't know what to say. Recently, she had already lost all sense of propriety, but compared to Ling Han, she paled in comparison. Ling Han smiled faintly. You still haven't seen that big black dog. If you did, you would start to doubt your own life. How could there be such a shameless existence? Back at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao cultivated quietly. They had gained many benefits recently and didn't lack cultivation resources for the time being. Moreover, the news of Jin Yulu's setback had spread. The originally interrupted tide of surrender immediately resumed. Every day, there would be 2 or 3 factions submitting letters of surrender, requiring the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to send people to discuss the matter of accepting them. Right now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was definitely the most profitable department in Xianbei country. Even the princes were envious. However, Qin Fengyan was always in seclusion and no one could see him. What could they do? Jin Yulu's group immediately became low-key. No one knew if they were really frightened or if they were secretly planning something. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. Heaven and earth underwent great changes every day. A few days ago, a strange vine suddenly appeared. Not only in the city, but even the dangerous mountains and rivers couldn't stop its growth. It seemed like it existed in every corner of the world. This is the star-creeping vine. Someone looked through ancient records and recognized this vine. There was only one star-creeping vine on a celestial body. Therefore, although everyone seemed to see many vines, in fact, they were all branches growing from the mother vine. The real mother vine grew from the core of the celestial body. Previously, the environment wasn't right and it lacked the conditions for the mother vine to grow. Now that the world had recovered, the mother vine was thriving again. The star-creeping vine had a special characteristic, which was that it could transmit messages. Every leaf of the vine could record sounds and even images. Communication was also very simple. Using a special frequency, it could achieve the transmission of sound and words. In ancient times and other celestial bodies in the universe, there was no need for communication tools like phones. One star-creeping vine was enough. The appearance of the star-creeping vine meant that the recovery of heavenly starfish was nearing completion. For a moment, the entire celestial body seemed to be connected as one. No matter how far away you were, the transmission of information would happen in an instant. There was no longer a delay of 2 or 3 days like in the past. And the appearance of the star-creeping vine had unexpectedly brought the marine race to the world. Every celestial body had a sea, and since heavenly starfish had the word sea in its name, the sea area was even more astonishing. It occupied nearly 2/3 of the celestial body's area. Moreover, the sea area was three-dimensional and could accommodate even more creatures. The world had changed and the demon race had appeared in the sea. There were also underwater humans. After the fall of the previous civilization, their ancestors had moved to the bottom of the sea and were still pure humans. Because the sea area was huge and the population was even greater, there was naturally no lack of geniuses and experts. There were also countless treasures. However, after the marine race left the sea area, their combat power would be greatly reduced. They would need to step into the path of immortality to eliminate this weakness. Even with the vastness of the sea and the abundance of resources, there were only 4 experts on the path of immortality. Therefore, the marine race had never invaded the land and lived in harmony. With the appearance of the star-creeping vine, the marine race was exposed. The humans of Xian Bei also cried out in surprise. It turned out that their understanding of this world was only the tip of the iceberg. However, since there was a connection, some young marine race geniuses made bold claims. They wanted the imperial capital to meet the so-called proud pair, to let the people of the land know that the marine race was the true ruler of this world. Unfortunately, Ling Han felt very innocent. But if there were really any marine race geniuses, he didn't mind killing them with a punch. Just like that, 7 or 8 days later, there was a shocking news. A sacred mountain had appeared in the sea, suspected to be the legendary Misty Peak. The news immediately shocked the entire heavenly starfish. With the star-creeping vine, any news could be transmitted in real time without any delay. In other words, everyone was now standing on the same starting line. Ling Han turned on his optical computer and searched for information about the Misty Peak. Chapter 35-26. What was the first step on the path to immortality? Leaping through the Dragon Gate, building the foundation. Leaping through the Dragon Gate was a metamorphosis of life, and the immortal foundation was the foundation of the path to immortality, the beginning of everything. Therefore, the immortal foundation was extremely important. The immortal foundation could be built by oneself, but it could also be built with treasures as the core to build the immortal foundation. Generally speaking, with treasures as the core, the immortal foundation would be stronger than ordinary immortal foundations, and it would have other powers as well. Everyone knew that building a house required a strong foundation. The stronger the foundation, the higher the chances of building a skyscraper. It was the same for martial artists. The immortal foundation determined one's future. Just because the foundation was stable did not mean one could reach the spirit transformation realm or even the minor realization realm. However, without a stable immortal foundation, even casting a cauldron was wishful thinking. Misty Peak was a divine mountain. Usually, it was illusory and no one knew where it was. Every once in a while it would appear. On the mountain, there were divine stones that could be used as the foundation of the immortal path. It was said that those who could reach the spirit transformation realm and above all use divine stones as the core. Only a very small number of powerhouses could reach a very high realm without relying on divine stones, but such people were pitifully few. Moreover, divine stones were the foundation of the immortal path, and they could give the foundation corresponding special abilities. For example, the profound stone could increase a martial artist's ability to sense the Tao of heaven and earth, speeding up cultivation. The fire dragon stone could make the foundation of the immortal path spew out terrifying flames, increasing one's combat ability. The magic illusion stone could create an imaginary world and trap the enemy inside. Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, if one could use a divine stone as the core to build the immortal path, the benefits would be astonishing. Now that most people were blocked from the path to immortality, the sudden appearance of Misty Peak would cause a huge commotion. The entire world was boiling over. Whether it was the human race, the demon race, or the marine race, anyone with a bit of ambition was on their way. This opportunity had to be fought for. When Ling Han found out, his heart palpitated with eagerness. Though he was still some distance away from the Spring Immortal's gate, It did not stop him from getting a few divine stones first. When he reached the gate, he could just take the divine stones out. He discussed with Princess Bai Xiao. Princess Bai Xiao would oversee the external affairs residence while Ling Han would head to Ethereal Peak to search for opportunities. By the way, how did you build your Immortal Dao Foundation stone? Asked Ling Han. This was a bit private, but Ling Han was very curious. Previously, he didn't know that one could use divine stones to build an immortal foundation. He thought of the God's stone he got from breaking the origin world. Could it be used to build a foundation? It shouldn't be possible, because he was still so weak at that time. If he could break it, wouldn't it be a tofu dregs project if he used it to build his foundation? He should have absorbed all the benefits of the God's stone. My fiend race naturally has some backing, passing down some divine stones. I am using the heavenly connecting stone as the core. Princess Bai Xiao spoke with a hint of arrogance. Also from Ethereal Peak? Ling Han asked. Princess Bai Xiao shook her head. Ethereal Peak isn't the only place that has divine stones, but getting them from other places is like accidentally stumbling upon an immortal herb. Ethereal Peak, on the other hand, is like entering a herb garden. The chances of getting something will increase greatly. Ling Han nodded. No wonder Princess Bai Xiao wasn't moved after hearing the news of Ethereal Peak's appearance. Her Immortal Dao Foundation wasn't weak at all. Then I'll leave all the matters in the residence to you. I'll set off tonight, he said. So urgent? Princess Bai Xiao was a little surprised. I have to be. I don't know when Ethereal Peak will disappear again. Also, I didn't bring the War Colossus this time. I have to be careful of people intercepting me halfway. Ling Han smiled. Princess Bai Xiao nodded. Ling Han left the War Colossus in the residence. After all, Ling Han was going out for personal matters this time. He shouldn't use the resources of the External Affairs Department. Moreover, the situation was changing. The External Affairs Department still needed a great weapon to hold the fort. Ling Han went back to pack up. When the 7 children learned that Ling Han was going out, they naturally fought to be the first to go. Ling Han thought about it. Instead of letting them cause trouble in the residence, it was better to bring them along. As for the fat pig, it didn't want to go, but Ling Han forcefully dragged it away. This fat pig could be used as a good shield. After putting the children and fat pig into the spirit-nourishing gourd, Ling Han traveled under the cover of the night. He quietly left the External Affairs Department and the city. With his strength, it was naturally easy for him to not be discovered by the guards. Princess Bai Xiao would only announce the news of his departure at noon the next day. This time, he obviously didn't use any means of transportation. He ran on his 2 legs, but when he used wind and cloud drift, his speed was faster than any means of transportation. He hadn't used foot apart world. This step could cross hundreds of miles, but with his current cultivation he couldn't use it more than a few times. It could only be used as an ultimate move to save his life. After walking for a few minutes, he leaped onto the top of the tree. The capital was already very far away, but he could still see the bright lights, which showed how prosperous the capital was. He didn't know how long it would take for him to return after leaving this time. Ling Han withdrew his gaze. He had been working hard to improve his cultivation. He believed that after crossing the Celestial Gate, his mental power would increase by a ton. At that time, he should be able to release the Empress and the others. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited and full of desire for strength. He used his movement technique and rushed forward quickly, but after a while, he suddenly felt an inexplicable discomfort as if he was being watched. He stopped and used his pupil technique to look around, but he didn't find anything. He was too paranoid. Ling Han frowned slightly. He was already so careful, and this decision was made very suddenly, but he was still being watched? He shook his head and continued to run. After completing the tempering of the 7 bones, his bones were incredibly sturdy and strong. Even if he used wind and cloud drift, he was completely fine after more than an hour, but his organs and skin that didn't have inscriptions couldn't take it. Those organs felt like they were about to explode, and his skin felt waves of pain as if it was about to be torn apart. The organs could be improved through inscriptions, but the skin didn't have the corresponding cultivation level to cultivate. Thus, even the strongest martial artist would be injured. However, the higher the cultivation level, the harder it was to be heavily injured and die. Then he could only cultivate the indestructible Heaven Scroll. Though it wasn't perfect, it could at least improve his defense. He stopped to rest, and when his body recovered, he continued on his way. This time, he didn't use wind and cloud drift. Anyways, his normal speed wasn't slow, so there was no need to strive for that speed that was twice the speed of sound. After running for a few hours, the sky gradually turned white, and a red sun suddenly jumped out, releasing millions of rays of morning light, filled with the vitality of life. Ling Han hurriedly stopped and began to cultivate. Right at this moment, he suddenly sensed a strand of absolute killing intent, and he suddenly leaped up. Bang! A small mushroom cloud had already appeared where he sat cross-legged just now, and boundless dust and sand swept into the air. End of this chapter. Chapter 35-28. After traveling along the water for half a day, Ling Han came out of the essence nourishing gourd. He felt that it was a pity that he had missed today's cultivation. As for Hong Tianbu's pursuit, he did not take it to heart. The two of them were already like fire and water. This was all too normal. Cultivation, I'm improving too slowly. Ling Han murmured. Actually, his cultivation was not slow at all. It was just that it could not be compared to some super lucky people. But I'm winning by taking one step at a time, laying down an incomparably solid foundation. Ling Han made an objective evaluation. He continued on his way. Since Ethereal Peak was overseas, they definitely had to cross the sea. Therefore, the first step was to get to the seaside and find a boat to cross. The current overseas was said to be incomparably dangerous. Not only could the sea race not be ignored, but there were also inexplicable danger zones in the sea. After entering the sea, the originally calm sea would suddenly surge with huge waves, easily crushing the mystic realm cultivators there. There would be reefs floating on the surface of the water, mysterious singing would be heard at night, and those who went to investigate would never return. In short, there were many mysterious places in the sea, and they were not to be underestimated. To cross the sea, it was best to find an experienced ferry, otherwise, it was very likely that he would be buried at the bottom of the sea and become food for the fishes and prawns. Xianbei country was huge, and there were many cities near the sea, so there were many routes out to the sea. Originally, Ling Han would definitely choose the shortest route, but now that he was being chased by Hong Tianbu, he naturally had to reconsider. He quickly made his choice and headed for Four Sun City. This was a seaside city with a dock, but it was not considered big, and it was also not close to him. If he could still bump into Hong Tianbu, Ling Han could only consider himself unlucky. At most, he would just have to run again. He traveled at 4 times the speed of sound, and it took him less than 2 days to reach Four Sun City. He first found a place to rest, and when he recovered to his peak condition, Ling Han went to the dock to look for a boat to go out to sea. Unexpectedly, there was a sea of people here, and it was hard to find a ferry. Moreover, the ticket price was ridiculously high. If you didn't want to sit on it, there would be others who would beg you to get on the boat with a lot of money. Ling Han found a large ship. Since he was going out to sea, a large ship would definitely be safer and more comfortable. This ticket was actually bought through bidding, and it cost him a few thousand jade seeds. It was no different from robbery. Fortunately, what Ling Han lacked the least was jade seeds. Now that the network was completely paralyzed, and the imperial family's ruling power was not as strong as before, these remote cities no longer used Xianbei coins, but directly used jade seeds to trade. Ling Han had brought many spatial artifacts with him. Some were filled with jade seeds, while others were filled with food. He had everything he needed. Paying for the ticket was a piece of cake. The captain said that they would leave early the next morning. The night passed. After Ling Han finished his cultivation, he arrived at the pier and prepared to board the ship. However, just as he was about to board the ship, someone stopped him. "I'm really sorry, this ship has been booked by a lord. Here, the ticket is returned to you," a crew member said and threw out a bag. Ling Han frowned and said, "Since I bought the ticket, you have the obligation to bring me out to sea. If you suddenly go back on your word, how will you make up for my losses?" Being able to board Misty Peak at the first moment would definitely give him an advantage. It had already been 4 or 5 days since the news had spread. Ling Han did not want to waste another 2 or 3 days. I can't do anything about that. This is my family's boss's decision. It's useless even if you tell me. The crew member shrugged, looking as if it had nothing to do with him, so don't bother me. He was extremely proactive when collecting money, but now he was trying to delay it in every possible way. Ling Han snorted and said, "Today, you must give me an explanation." "What explanation do you want?" There was a sneer and a group of people walked out of the cabin. The leader was a young man who looked to be in his 20s and had an arrogant expression. There were 7 people behind him, including a middle-aged man in his 30s and a white-haired old man in his 70s. However, even the white-haired old man had a majestic gait and an imposing aura. Clearly, this group was all martial artists. Ling Han activated his eye technique, and with a single glance, he was able to see through everyone's cultivation level. 2 secret-seeking realms and 5 enlightening realms. The young man's cultivation was the weakest, only inscriptions, which was the same as him. He should have come from a cage, right? Otherwise, how could an engravement realm young man lead a group of powerful subordinates? As long as he used absolute fairness to defeat those 2 secret-seeking realms, the rest would not be a problem. Ling Han pondered and then looked at the young man. "You're the one who ignored the rules and stole the ship." I have a jade seed. So what if I love to throw money?" The young man laughed with exaggerated arrogance. Ling Han knew that this was because he had been suppressed in the cage for too long. Now that he had escaped and was suddenly placed in the world of flowers, he would definitely be overwhelmed. It was not strange for him to be unbelievably arrogant. However, he had picked the wrong target. Ling Han shook his head. "Then I'll have to ask you to disembark." "How dare you?" A middle-aged man immediately jumped out. "How dare you speak to my young master like that? You must be tired of living. Breaking his legs and pulling out his tongue is enough." "There's no need to kill," the young man said calmly. "Young master is kind." The others all praised, making the young man feel smug as if he was a benevolent ruler. Xiao, the middle-aged man, charged out and punched at Ling Han. He was at the enlightening state and had opened more than 20 acupoints. When he punched out, not only was the fist force surging, but the acupoints were also releasing power like hidden weapons. Although the power was not as powerful as the bombardment of fists and weapons, it was hard to guard against. However, Ling Han activated his eye technique and could clearly see each and every one of his opponent's attacks. He moved forward and launched a strong attack. Bang, bang, bang. In just a few moves, the middle-aged man was knocked off the ship and fell into the sea with a splash. The young man and the others were all surprised. They did not expect Ling Han to be so strong. "Zhang Quan, Zhao Xian, the 4 of you come together," a white-haired man said. Immediately, the remaining 4 enlightening state cultivators walked out and surrounded Ling Han. Ling Han stood with his hands behind his back, not taking the 4 seriously at all. "Pretentious," the young man said unhappily. This should be his privilege, but it made him feel like his limelight was stolen. "Young man, you will pay for your arrogance." The 4 enlightening state cultivators attacked at the same time. They did not have the restraint of a master and worked together as a matter of course. Because in the cage, the enlightening state could not be called a master, and naturally could not develop the bearing of a master. Ling Han used his eye sorcery to see through the 4's attacks and then counterattacked. Chapter 35-29. Bang, bang, bang. Ling Han was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. With just a few moves, he defeated the 4 enlightening realm cultivators like cutting vegetables. The 2 elders of the mystery-seeking realm were finally moved. Ling Han's battle prowess obviously hadn't crossed into the level of the mystery-seeking realm, but his battle prowess far surpassed that of an ordinary Enlightenment realm warrior. It was simply unimaginable. This was definitely a martial art genius, who could crush the same level as easily as drinking water. In their view, Ling Han should also be in the enlightening realm, otherwise, they really could not imagine that someone could surpass a realm and still be invincible. "Young man, who is your master?" A white-headed old man asked Ling Han. He was afraid of Ling Han's background. To be able to cultivate such a genius, he must be a true self-old monster or a spirit transformation perfected cultivator. Therefore he had to be cautious. Ling Han smiled faintly. My master is great self-heavenly master, above the 9 heavens, in charge of the universe. What a great feeling. The two elders looked at each other. Naturally, it was impossible for them to have heard of this name. Boy, are you fooling us? The other elder shouted. He had a head full of black hair, but there were too many wrinkles. Ling Han clapped his hands. Smart. Humph, playing tricks in front of us, you are seeking your own death. The white-headed old man was furious and rushed towards Ling Han, one hand reaching out and grabbing. After all, he had scruples, so this blow was to take down Ling Han, not to kill him. Ling Han immediately activated absolute fairness, and the aura of the white-headed old man suddenly plummeted. He was not a strong cultivator of the immortal path, nor did he merge with the eyes of an ancient fierce creature, nor was he the descendant of spirit transformation perfected cultivator, so he could be rewarded with some treasure to resist the suppression of absolute fairness. Ling Han rushed up, and with a punch, bang, the white-headed old man was knocked unconscious. Impossible! The other old man exclaimed in shock. Ling Han had clearly only displayed the battle prowess of the opening aperture tier, but why was it that his companion's performance was even worse than the others before him? He couldn't even block a single blow. Ling Han rushed towards the black-haired old man again, and blasted another punch. The black-haired old man was already prepared, but his realm was directly pulled down by absolute fairness. How could he be a match for Ling Han? Bang, he was also knocked unconscious with a punch. Ling Han clapped his hands, and looked towards the young man. How is it now? A look of fear appeared on the young man's face. He had relied on his followers, but now that even his followers had been defeated, he immediately felt panic in his heart. What do you want? He stuttered. My father is Zhang Ziyun, a true self-realm expert. Ling Han chuckled and said, nothing much. I just wanted to give you a beating so that you will remember clearly that this is not a cage where you can do whatever you want. The young man retreated a few steps and said, you have guts, you actually dare. Ling Han reached out and grabbed the young man, and started to beat him up. What do you mean dare? I am Hong Tianbu, the capital's #1 genius. Don't you know? Ling Han made Hong Tianbu hate him. What Hong Tianbu? Is he very powerful? The young man was confused, but his nose was punched, causing blood to flow from his nose, and he immediately screamed. But the other 7 people had heard of Hong Tianbu, and they were all shocked. No wonder this person was so strong. He was one of the capital's 2 geniuses, Hong Tianbu. After Ling Han beat up the young man, he drove the group of people off the ship. The captain and the others were all frightened by Ling Han's strength, and they all trembled. Ling Han said coldly, set sail according to the original plan, no problem, right? No, absolutely not. These people hurriedly shook their heads. Some people had arrived long ago, but were driven away, so these people naturally could not be found. Those who came late did not know of such an episode, and did not notice it at all. After boarding the ship, they entered their own rooms. At 11 o'clock, the ship set sail and went out to sea. Seeing the ship go far away, the young man who was beaten up appeared again, and said hatefully, quickly contact 3rd senior brother, tell him to kill Hong Tianbu when he meets him at Misty Peak. He hurriedly shook his head, don't kill him, leave him for me to kill personally. Yes, young master. A few followers hurriedly said. With the star-treading vine, communication was too convenient, and distance was not a problem at all. On a ship, Hong Tianbu suddenly sneezed. He rubbed his nose. He really had bad luck recently, or else with his mystic-seeking realm cultivation, how could he sneeze? Obviously, his bad luck was not as simple as a sneeze. After the ship left the dock, it raised its sails, and immediately broke through the wind and waves, and began to speed up. Recently, it was full of people going to Misty Peak, and this ship had already made 3 trips back and forth, so it could be said that it was a walk in the park. Therefore, the captain patted his chest and guaranteed that this trip would only take less than a day, and it would be absolutely safe. After entering the deep sea, although there were wind and waves, the wind was not too strong, and the waves were not too big. The ship slightly shook, but it never stopped, causing some people to have symptoms of seasickness and vomit nonstop. This had nothing to do with strength, some people were just seasickness. Ling Han did not have any reaction to this, and even if he was seasickness, he only needed to enter the spirit-nourishing gourd to avoid this feeling. However, a few hours later, a dark cloud came, blocking the sun, and suddenly, the world became dark. What's wrong? Everyone ran out of the cabin and came to the deck. There was still a long time before the sky turned dark, but suddenly it became so dark, it was unacceptable. Don't worry. A crew member comforted, the clouds in the sky, the wind on the sea, the heart of a girl is always unpredictable, it's very normal. This guy was actually a bit poetic. Everyone laughed since he said it was very normal, then there was no need to be nervous. Ling Han activated his ocular technique, but frowned, and said, "A fog appeared on the sea, is this also very normal?" "What fog?" Everyone followed his gaze, but they didn't see anything. The light was too dim. "Kid, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm warning you, don't say scary things. Be careful, or I'll beat you up." Everyone rebuked him, thinking that Ling Han was deliberately making up some lies to attract attention. But that crew member had seen Ling Han's power before, and couldn't help but be shocked, and quickly shouted, "Boss, there's a fog in front." Immediately, the captain steered the rudder and urgently turned around. This was too urgent, everyone felt as if the ship was about to capsize, and quickly grabbed onto things around them, lest they were sent flying. Ling Han used Thousand Catty Fall, and his body was firmly locked on the deck. He looked ahead, only to see that the fog was quickly rushing over. He shook his head. Not to mention the fact that the ship was still turning, even if it had adjusted its direction and sailed at full speed, it still could not outrun this fog. In the blink of an eye, endless fog rolled over. Chapter 35:30. Boom, along with the dense fog came a huge wave, crashing heavily on the hull of the ship. Many people were sent flying, and some even fell into the sea. It was as if there were dumplings in the sea. Fortunately, after the first wave, it stopped, and the hull of the ship swayed a few times before regaining stability. Everyone hurriedly threw down ropes to save the people, but the fog was too thick, and it was difficult to see their fingers in front of them. If they were hit far away by the wave, they would not be able to see the ship, let alone the ropes. Everyone shouted, using sound as a guide. Ling Han grabbed a rope and directly leapt off the ship. After activating his eye technique, he had already seen a person. When he landed, he picked that person up and flung him towards the deck. He did not stop, grabbing the rope with his hand and tapping on the hull of the ship with the tip of his foot. Soon he found a second person and did the same, throwing him onto the deck. 3, 4, 5 people. Some people were at a loss and were thrown onto the deck by him, while others were extremely defensive and actually attacked him when he tried to rescue them. Fortunately, the people who fell off the ship were too weak, so how could they hurt Ling Han? In less than a few minutes, Ling Han circled around the ship and rescued at least 20 people. If one counted, this number was more than half of the people who had fallen into the water. He returned to the deck, and immediately many people ran to him to thank him, but some people showed disdain, as if they thought that saving this kind of trash would lower their status. The strange thing was, looking outside the hull, the visibility was less than a foot, but the deck was unusually clear, as if the fog could not invade the ship. It's over. A crew member sat down, his eyes lifeless, looking incomparably hopeless. Immediately, other crew members walked over and whispered to the other party, making him quiet down. Hey, what are you talking about? A passenger was unhappy. What's over? Is there something strange about this fog? Nothing. A few crew members smiled, but their smiles were a little fake. What's going on? This made even more people nervous. One look and they could tell that something was wrong. Under the continuous questioning of the crowd, the captain was forced to come out and explain to the crowd. Previously, some ships encountered the fog and were trapped for a long time. Some crew members and passengers even mysteriously disappeared and have not been found until now. Disappeared mysteriously? Could he have been eaten by a sea monster? Someone immediately laughed. All in all, everyone must be careful. It's best to stay together and not split up, the captain said sternly. Seeing his serious expression, some of the people who wanted to retort did not say anything. Although martial artists were all very confident and did not believe in ghosts or gods, only believing in themselves, the fog this time was too strange, so they had no choice but to take it seriously. Everyone, don't be too nervous. This fog will only last until the next morning. Although it will take up some of our time, it will definitely dissipate, the captain said. So you're planning to stop the boat and wait here for half a day? Someone shouted. This won the approval of many people, and they all cheered. Under such strong pressure, the captain could only continue sailing. But they did not know whether the fog was shockingly large or not. After sailing for half an hour, there was still no sign of them leaving. Ling Han could clearly see that the ship had actually been circling in this area. It was not that the captain had done it on purpose, but because of the undercurrent, the ship had unknowingly changed its direction, causing them to keep circling. With Ling Han's current speed, he did not need to run at full speed. He could walk on the waves as if he was walking on flat ground, but he did not even know where Misty Peak was. Even if he ran in that direction, he might miss it because of a slight error. After all, for the vast sea, an island or a mountain was really too small. Therefore, if he hurried on his own, it might actually waste more time. Ling Han was willing to wait for half a day. There were many people who had the same idea as him. After all, as long as one entered the blood transformation realm, they would be able to walk on the waves at supersonic speed. Everyone gradually calmed down. Since they could not leave this godforsaken place for the time being, they might as well be patient. After all, it was only half a day. Shrouded in fog, even though it was not night yet, it was already dark. The captain got someone to light the torch. It was easy for people to develop negative emotions in a dark environment. Someone did not give up and threw a torch into the fog. But as soon as he threw it out, he could not see it anymore. Oh right, the captain seemed to have suddenly thought of something. At night, there will be mysterious singing. You must cover your ears. It is said that many people have gone missing after listening to singing. There were many rumors on the sea. For example, there was a huge whirlpool that swallowed a huge ship. There was also a black turtle that was bigger than a city that created huge waves with a flip and capsized the ship. There was also a mysterious singer that sang to confuse people. Everyone was shocked. Were they going to encounter such a strange thing? Who could sing on the sea? So, everyone cover your ears first. The captain looked at his watch. There are still about 2 hours before it gets dark. Let's hurry up and eat. After eating, everyone should be alert and we will get through this together. No one said a word. The atmosphere was distorted by the captain's words, causing everyone's hearts to be in their throats. Soon, everyone had their dinner in advance. Then they waited for the night to fall. Although they could not see anything in the fog, they could only judge by the passage of time. When night fell, everyone became nervous. What would happen tonight? Time passed quietly. It was so quiet on the ship that they could hear the heartbeats of others. Martial artists were full of vigor and vitality. Their biological functions were terrifying. Their heartbeats were strong and powerful. Usually, they did not feel anything when they talked or did things. But it was so quiet now that their heartbeats could be heard clearly. Thump, thump, thump. Everyone's heartbeats rose and fell. Even though they had cotton in their ears, it did not work. It was as if their heartbeats had been magnified many times. Ah! Someone suddenly screamed. Who is it? Where is the murderer? Come out! Immediately, many people drew their weapons and roared out one by one. They were already in a state of panic. The scream directly ignited the tension on the scene. Well, someone said weakly. I was not attacked by anyone. I was just too nervous and was blown by a dark phoenix. That's why I couldn't help but scream. Everyone was speechless. Aren't you a little too cowardly? The people who jumped out all put away their weapons, and their faces were a little embarrassed. Everyone sat down again. The ship was quiet again. Did you guys hear someone singing? After a while, someone suddenly said with a trembling voice. Chapter 35-32. These mermaids bewitched people with their inaudible songs, so their spiritual energy was obviously not weak. Unfortunately, compared to Ling Han, they paled in comparison. Ling Han had been developing his spiritual energy for a long time and had always focused on improving his telekinesis. He also had the spirit-nourishing gourd, which could produce some strange energy to nourish the spirit and improve his telekinesis. Being hit so suddenly, Ling Han only felt a slight pain in his knowledge sea, but it was not enough to hurt him. He spread out his telekinesis and turned it into an invisible shield, but the incoming spiritual energy attacks were all smashed into pieces, unable to hurt him at all. Not good, this human's telekinesis is extremely strong. Use the Poseidon horn to deal with him. A merman took out a green conch shell and blew it. Immediately, dense fog rolled out and covered the small reef. There was no fog here, but now that the fog had dispersed, one could not see their fingers in front of them. It was much thicker than the sea. Ling Han was fearless. He opened his ocular sorcery, which could see through illusions. Although it was not comparable to second babies, it was more than enough to deal with the current situation. Xiao, a sword silently pierced over. Ling Han punched back. Pung! Suddenly, the long sword flew up, and the mermaid who attacked turned into a mist of blood. What? This fog can not only block vision, but also has a great confusion effect on divine sense. Why is it ineffective against him? What a monster! The mermaids all exclaimed. They had never met such an opponent, and all methods were ineffective against him. Join forces to activate the Poseidon horn. Several mermaids worked together to blow the conch. Hong, a frightening hurricane formed and swept towards Ling Han. The speed of its movement was not very fast, but its rotation was extraordinarily fast, enough to forcefully grind even fine iron into pieces. Ling Han kicked out, and peng, the hurricane was immediately kicked away. The mermaids were all shocked speechless. This human was simply too strong. Retreat! The imitation Poseidon horn cannot do anything to him. Ask the masters of our race to suppress him. Plop! Plop! The mere people jumped into the sea one after another, fleeing without a trace. Ling Han did not give chase. The sea was not his home ground. First of all, he would not be able to hold his breath for too long, and when he reached the depths of the sea, even his physique would not be able to withstand the terrifying water pressure, and he would be squashed flat. Once the merfolk were gone, or it could be said that the sea god's horn that created the dense fog was gone, the fog immediately dispersed, and those people who had been bewitched all woke up as if from a dream. Why am I here? Shouldn't I be on the boat? I think I heard a beautiful song. Why can't I hear it anymore? These people were very confused. They had lost their memories of the time when they were bewitched. Not far away, the ship gradually appeared. We're here. The people on the reef shouted, waving their hands. Only then did they remember the legend that those who heard the song at night would disappear and never be able to return. They were all scared and unconsciously appeared on the reef, only one step away from disappearing. The people on the ship also saw them and waved their flags to signal them. There were reefs here, so the ship didn't dare approach. So the people on the reef all used their movement arts and began to run on the sea. Everyone had at least blood transformation cultivation bases, so running on the sea was a piece of cake. As long as the waves weren't too strong, they wouldn't be smashed into the water. Once they got close to the ship, they all jumped up and landed on the deck. In just a moment, everyone had returned to the ship. The people on the ship hastily asked what had happened, but none of them could say anything. All they knew was that when they had woken up, they had been on that reef. How strange! Everyone nodded. Thinking of the legend, they could only think of it as a legend of the sea. Since the fog has scattered, we can set off, someone suggested. The captain immediately nodded. Although no one was missing and the fog had scattered, he still felt uneasy. He wanted to quickly leave this damnable place, so he had the crew raise the sails and start rowing. Look at that reef, someone shouted. pointing at the small reef. Everyone looked over, and a strange scene appeared. That piece of reef was actually melting, and very soon it disappeared. It was made of ice. Ling Han was also a bit surprised. No wonder he had felt a chill when they had approached the reef. "Hurry up and leave this damnable place," urged everyone. The ship raised its sails and quickly left the sea. After driving far away, everyone finally heaved a sigh of relief. That place was really too strange. The night passed and the sun rose. Everyone hurriedly cultivated. They had originally planned to reach Misty Peak at noon, but because they had been delayed for so long the previous day, they only saw a towering mountain peak at dusk. Misty Peak. Everyone was excited. It was like holding a divine stone in their hands would allow them to break through to immortality. Seeing the divine mountain was one thing, but reaching it was another. The ship traveled for over an hour before finally getting close to the divine mountain. The ship didn't reach the shore. There were many reefs near the shore, and if they tried to get close, they would only run aground. Fortunately, this bit of distance was a piece of cake. Everyone jumped off the ship and walked on the water. In fact, experts like Ling Han didn't need to take a ship to go back. They could cross the sea on foot, but they couldn't run into big waves. Otherwise, they could easily be swept away by the sea, which could be a great danger. Ling Han also moved. He didn't need to go all out. He jogged at 3 times the speed of sound and quickly reached the shore. This was actually an island, a very large island. The center of the island was the cloud-piercing Misty Peak. No one knew how high it was. In any case, they couldn't see the top at all. Looking back, the waves on the surface of the sea shimmered. Under the light of the setting sun, it looked like there were thousands of golden snakes dancing, majestic and magnificent. He walked on the beach. The sand was snow-white as if it was made of milk. It was also very soft to the touch. But after a few steps, he felt that the bottom was actually empty, and his whole body was sinking. Pang! The white sand flew, and a bloody mouth appeared below. The teeth were like swords about 2 feet long. Moreover, they were arranged in rows, and they were as thick as 4 rows. Ling Han hurriedly used his psychic power to wrap his foot with stone energy. Then he stepped toward one of the sharp teeth. Peng, he used the force to soar into the sky, and then fell backward. He landed on the beach, and the monster hiding under the sand also revealed its true appearance. It was actually a super large lizard, completely white. This was also one of the reasons why it could hide in the sand and carry out ambushes. This was really a huge monster. Its body was at least 10 feet long. At this moment, its mouth was open, and saliva flowed out. Its eyes stared closely at Ling Han, and it was incomparably fierce. Chapter 35-33. TSK, I've just arrived at Ethereal Peak and I'm already taking you down a notch. 4-legged snake, you're quite sneaky, said Ling Han with a smile. He kicked his feet. Even though he wrapped his feet with stone energy, his energy layer was still pierced by the sharp teeth, and even his shoes were pierced. Fortunately, his feet were not injured. The giant lizard did not speak, and its eyes were filled with killing intent. Ling Han had initially thought that it was a member of the demonic tribe, and had only transformed into its original form. However, from the looks of it now, it seemed like a native wild beast of this place. Although it was powerful, it was filled with a wild nature, and did not possess any intelligence. I wonder if lizard meat tastes good, he mumbled, and his fighting spirit gradually rose. The giant lizard was very cautious, which was evident from the fact that it was ambushing instead of attacking head-on. Therefore, when it thought that Ling Han was powerful, it naturally did not attack right away. Instead, it was observing as if it wanted to find out Ling Han's weakness. Ling Han laughed. Since you're not going to change, I'll do it. He roared and charged at the giant lizard. Bang bang bang. He blasted a terrifying force across the air, and he even attached high-level metal energy to it, which greatly increased his destructive power. However, the shocking thing was that although the force of his punch could tear the lizard's defense, it was not very effective, and only a few scales were shaken off. It was a very powerful defense. Ling Han looked around. There wasn't just one of these giant lizards, but rather, they covered the entire beach. Many people had been ambushed. Some didn't even have the power to resist and were directly swallowed, while others had luckily escaped the calamity. However, many of them had suffered heavy injuries, and there were quite a few who had lost an arm or a leg. Many people were not a match for the giant lizard at all. It was useless even if they managed to escape, as they were soon killed and abandoned their armor. Some of them managed to escape back to the sea and directly chased after the ferry that had gone far away. Others failed to escape and were caught and swallowed whole. In just a few minutes, more than half of the hundreds of people who had disembarked were dead. There were still 7 people persisting, but the other lizards did not dive into the sea to chase after them. Instead, they surrounded them and wanted to kill everyone on the beach. Ling Han snorted and took out his 2-star magic sword. Shwa, a sword light flashed past, and it was like a light that could split the heavens and split the earth in the boundless darkness. Pooh, a third of a large lizard's neck was instantly slashed open, and fresh blood spurted out. It was true that Ling Han was unable to unleash the full power of a 2-star magical artifact, but the grade of this sword was still there. How sharp was it? He brandished his sword and danced. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Streaks of sword chi flew out. He was like a god of death, harvesting the lives of these giant lizards. After the death of 7 large lizards, the remaining large lizards fled in panic, not daring to face Ling Han's blade again. Ling Han sheathed his sword and glanced around. In just a short period of time, another 3 people were killed by the giant lizard and left this world forever. Many thanks. The 4 survivors walked over and clasped their hands in thanks to Ling Han. If it wasn't for Ling Han's efforts to turn the tide, they would definitely have perished. This made them extremely depressed. Could it be that they could not even take the first step in the engravement realm? Ling Han raised his hand and looked at Misty Peak. They had just arrived and they were already attacked by a group of lizards. What kind of danger would there be next? In the distance, a figure was currently flying over at an astonishing speed, causing dust to fill the sky behind him. Hong Tianbu. Ling Han did not find it strange. If it were him, he would also wait here. This was called waiting for a hare to come to him. Ling Han. Hong Tianbu had already arrived. He did not stop and directly used the eye of the ancient beast. A giant eyeball suddenly appeared in the air. It was incomparably ferocious, and it stared at Ling Han. Even if they were not directly stared at, the other 4 were still affected. Gray lines appeared on their skin, and in just an instant, they had turned into stone statues. Ling Han also felt his body stiffen. He was shocked. This was the eye of the ancient beast that Hong Tianbu had obtained. It actually had the ability to petrify people. The opponent had used such a great killing weapon the moment they arrived. Obviously, they did not want to give him any chance to escape and wanted to kill him in one go. Ling Han completely activated his secret force and psychokinesis. Especially the Monkey King's cultivation method, he only felt his body lighten and recovered his ability to move. Although he was still greatly affected, he was not completely unable to move. So close, yet worlds apart. He moved his feet and immediately dashed out 50 miles. As expected, he was still affected. Otherwise, he would be able to cross at least 100 miles with a single step. However, he had also left the area of influence of the eye. Ling Han immediately recovered his ability to move. He used so close, yet worlds apart again and again. After a few times, he had already entered the depths of this large island. Hong Tianbu was stunned. He absolutely did not expect that even after he had used his strongest trump card, he still could not kill Ling Han. Pooh! He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Activating the ability of the ancient beast eye was also a huge burden on him. In theory, he should only be able to use it after stepping into the celestial path, but who asked him to be a monster? However, even the petrification technique that had a trace of the might of the celestial path was not able to completely restrain Ling Han. This caused Hong Tianbu's expression to become somewhat unsightly. This opponent was too difficult to deal with. Even with this, he still could not kill him. No, he definitely could not let Ling Han step into the celestial path. Otherwise, he would definitely become a great calamity for him. Hong Tianbu took out an elixir and swallowed it, suppressing the boiling blood in his body. He would definitely drag out Ling Han here and kill him. He would not give his opponent any more space to grow. Ling Han stopped. Using so close, yet worlds apart consecutively made him feel like he was about to explode. This was originally a secret technique used by Celestials. It was already very amazing for him to be able to grasp and use it, but he still wanted to use it continuously. He rested for a while and calmed the boiling blood in his body. When his skin was no longer scalding hot, he stood up again and released the milk babies and lascivious pig. Is this Misty Peak? Oh, it is indeed filled with the smell of a formation. There is a very ancient aura. It should have existed for countless years. The milk babies were all acting like they were old and experienced as they commented there. Lascivious pig, on the other hand, was disinterested. He spread his limbs and lay on the ground, looking as if he would win if he moved. Let's go. Ling Han set off with the milk babies. Although he had used so close, yet worlds apart to run a few hundred miles in one go, that mountain was still extremely far away. It did not feel like he was getting closer at all. Was this island that big? Ling Han expressed his doubts. If he were to look at it from the boat, it would at most be a few hundred miles in radius. They advanced towards Misty Peak. Along the way, there were dense forests and shrubs. All of them had sharp thorns that were even sharper than sharp swords. A single touch would definitely cause one's skin to break and blood to flow. Fortunately, there was no poison. Otherwise, it would be terrible. However, as they walked, Ling Han realized that something was wrong. That was because they had already walked for thousands of miles, but the distance between them and that mountain did not shorten at all. Chapter 35-34. Array formation. Ling Han thought to himself. Previously, the children had also said that there was the smell of an ancient array formation here, so it could be explained why they could not reach the end after walking around. However, knowing was one thing, and how to break it was another. Ling Han and the second baby both activated their eye technique, but they could not see anything. The mountain was still the same mountain, and the water was still the same water. There was no change. Obviously, it was not that there was no array formation here, but that the two of them were too weak to see through this array formation. Ling Han stopped. Since he could not see through it, he could only look for the pattern. He leaped onto a tall tree and looked into the distance. He was an array master, and his talent was extraordinary. From a different angle, he saw something different. This terrain, there is water in the fire, and there is killing in the water. Is this like a dragon raising its head, or is this like beheading a phoenix? Ling Han murmured. Although he was not qualified to study immortal path level array patterns, he had seen many descriptions of array formations from the void beast skin. Array formations were a kind of use of the power of heaven and earth. Therefore, there were connate arrays, which were formed naturally, and postnatal arrays, which were man-made. In fact, postnatal arrays were all imitations of connate arrays, or perhaps they were inspired and evolved. Imitation was definitely easier than innovation. Ling Han matched the terrain with the array formations in the Array Formation Treasure Book, nodding his head repeatedly as he came to a sudden realization. However, he seemed to have seen some clues, but if he wanted to crack it, no way. This was an immortal path level array formation. Regardless of whether it was connate or postnatal, it was not something that Ling Han could crack at the moment. Though I can't decipher it, if I avoid these places, wouldn't it be a safe path? Ling Han murmured. After sweeping his gaze over the surroundings, he found an entry point and then leaped down. Let's go. He continued to set off with the children, taking turns along the way. As expected, the effect immediately became different. He was getting closer and closer to Ethereal Peak. But before he could reach the foot of the mountain, night fell first. The Great Dipper Transposition. Ling Han was astonished. In that instant, a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling transformation had occurred on the island. He hurriedly came to a halt. If he continued, he would be walking astray. They stopped to eat and rest. After that, they had to coax the 7 children to sleep. He was so tired that he was sweating all over. Perverted Pig looked at him and grinned as if he was gloating. Damned pig. Do you believe that I won't turn you into a roast pig tomorrow? Ling Han threatened. Everyone said that one's mouth was short after eating from others. This damned pig had eaten so many meals from him, but it had always been hostile towards him. He had never seen such a shameless pig. Perverted pig snorted at him, completely unconcerned. You actually dared to grab this Uncle Pig from the crowd of beauties in the imperial capital. This Uncle Pig was already giving you face by not biting you to death. The night passed, and the sun rose as usual, sprinkling warm sunlight. Ling Han immediately began to cultivate. Right now, he wished that he could have 2 or 3 or even more sunrises every day so that he could have more time to expand his meridians and reach the peak of 3 Ming as soon as possible. Then, he would advance all the way to the Enlightenment realm and the Mystic-Seeking realm. He swore that when he entered the Mystic-Seeking realm, he would definitely beat Hong Tianbu into a retard. The 7 children and perverted pig did not need to cultivate. When Ling Han finished cultivating and prepared breakfast, they lazily opened their eyes. Food really came to them as soon as they opened their mouths. After eating his fill, Ling Han once again observed the environment. The strange thing was that the environment had now returned to the same situation as yesterday evening. Ling Han walked as usual, getting closer and closer to the misty peak. However, by noon, he had truly arrived at the foot of the mountain. There were many people here. Ling Han took a closer look. Although it was not a sea of people, there were indeed quite a number of them. Furthermore, apart from the human race, he also saw many demons, such as those with wolf heads and snake tails, but there were also species that he had never seen before. For example, those with 2 huge pincers, their original form should be that of a crab. There was also the walrus man, with a round body and thick black skin. His unique characteristics were extremely obvious. Sea race. Since these people had arrived at the foot of the mountain, why did they not ascend the mountain? Ling Han did not act rashly. He did not know if Hong Tianbu was lying in ambush at the side, waiting for an opportunity to strike. One must know that this fellow was also proficient in formations, and even had the eye of a primordial beast. At the current stage, it should be even more powerful than Ling Han's eye sorcery. He climbed to a high place to take a look. In front of these people was a very wide mountain path, but currently, no one was climbing it. But very soon, Ling Han found out the reason. Rumble, he saw a huge stone ball rolling down from the mountain, bringing with it an incomparably powerful impact as it heavily rolled over. There were characters on the stone ball faintly glowing, emitting a terrifying killing intent. Even though he was so far away, Ling Han still felt a chill and did not want to be touched by the stone ball. These people did not go up at the foot of the mountain, obviously afraid of being crushed to death by the stone ball. But couldn't they climb from other places? No matter how steep the mountain was, it should not be too difficult for martial artists. It should not be so easy, otherwise, the people here were not fools. How could they not have thought of it? He observed for a while, and saw that the interval between the appearance of the rolling stones was not fixed. Sometimes one would appear every 3 minutes, and sometimes it would be as long as 10 minutes. There was no pattern. Ling Han decided to give it a try. Since he had already come here, how could he give up without trying? He took a cloak to cover his head, and let the milk babies and perverted pig enter the essence nourishing gourd, and then walked forward. After walking into the crowd, Ling Han found that these people were actually forming a team. A mystic-seeking expert leading the team, now 1 person short, requires the cultivation of the enlightening realm. A double mystic-seeking expert leading the team, recruiting 1 person, the requirement is proficient in formations, the realm can be lowered appropriately, starting from extreme bone. A team of 8 enlightening realm, the leader is a 2-star genius, recruiting 2 more enlightening realm members. Many people were shouting, many were observing, and some were discussing. It was a very lively scene. Ling Han was a little embarrassed. What was going on? "Friend, what's going on?" he asked the person beside him with a smile. "Are you blind? Can't you see for yourself?" The person was very impatient, pointing forward. Ling Han frowned, but he did not say anything. He walked to the beginning of the mountain path. Logically speaking, with so many rolling stones constantly crashing down, this place should be full of stones, but in fact, There was nothing here. The rolling stones suddenly disappeared after reaching this position. There was a stone tablet erected there, introducing the way to go up the mountain. It turned out that to go up the mountain, one needed to ride a transportation tool, like a wooden raft, which could slide on the mountain path, and there were weapons on the wooden raft, which could destroy the impact of the rolling stones. A wooden raft could only carry 10 people at most, and the power of the wooden raft's weapons depended on the combined strength of the crew. Chapter 35-36. A good story. No wonder they had to form a team. Not only that, they had to gather 10 people, and they had to find someone strong enough. It was normal for some teams to find a formation master. There would definitely be formations everywhere. With a formation master, they would be able to avoid many detours. What made Ling Han curious was why so many people had arrived before him. Were there so many excellent formation masters? He blended into the crowd and found out that there was a sign at the outer perimeter of the island. One could first obtain a type of stone to guide the way and not be confused by the formation. But Ling Han had been chased by Hong Tian steps and crossed 50 miles in one step. He was deep into the island, so he naturally could not find the sign or the stone nearby. Luckily, he had a shocking understanding of formations. Otherwise, he would still be running aimlessly in the forest. The wooden raft has appeared, someone exclaimed. At the edge of the mountain path, 20 wooden rafts suddenly appeared. Everyone hurried to form teams. Before, they had to be in the enlightening realm, but now they had to be in the engravement realm. They only hoped to form teams because the time the wooden raft would exist was limited. They had to hurry. Team after team jumped onto the wooden rafts, and the wooden rafts rode on the mountain path, beginning their journey. "Little brother, what's your cultivation?" someone suddenly asked Ling Han. Ling Han glanced at the person. It was a young man nearing his 30s, in the enlightening realm. He smiled and said, "Inscription." "Only inscription?" The young man frowned, but he still stomped his feet and said, "I don't care so much. Inscription it is. Come, we'll bring you up the mountain." Ling Han wanted to personally experience how this game was played, so he nodded. All right. To the young man, Ling Han's reaction was normal. He was in the enlightening realm. Wasn't it a great favor to bring an engravement realm cultivator up the mountain? Oh, you still want to hesitate and think about it? What are you putting on airs for? The young man brought Ling Han back. Most of the people had already formed teams and set off. There were only 30 or so people left. "Brotherly, what's that person's cultivation level?" someone immediately asked as soon as the young man brought Ling Han back to his group. "Inscription patterns." The youth namedly said truthfully. "Inscriptions?" The others frowned. They had already formed a group of 9 people, 4 of whom were in the enlightening realm, and the other 5 were in the inscriptions realm. However, these inscriptions realm cultivators were all their clansmen, junior brothers and sisters, not outsiders. To drag an outsider up the mountain, and an engravement realm weakling at that. Forget it. Time is of the essence. We can't care so much. One of them made a decision. "All right, let's just treat it as doing a good deed," someone else agreed. A red-clothed man coldly looked at Ling Han and said, "Brat, you have to listen to my instructions later. Otherwise, even if you pass the stage, I can still throw you down." Ling Han smiled faintly and said, "All right. Let's go." Everyone went up one by one. When the 5 engravement realm martial artists walked past Ling Han, they all glanced sideways at him. "Brat, be smart. Don't miss out on this great opportunity." "That's because our senior brother Li is kind. That's why he would bring a weakling like you." They all spoke one after another, showing off their sense of superiority. Ling Han didn't take it to heart. Right now, he only wanted to try out the operation of the wooden raft. It would naturally be best if he could pass, but even if he couldn't, he had accumulated experience and knew what to do. Bang! The sound of something crashing came from the top of the mountain. Not long after, 10 people fell down the mountain, landing solidly on the ground. They couldn't get up for a long time. Obviously, they had failed. "Let's go," the youth namedly said. He was in charge of rowing, and the wooden raft shot out like an arrow. "Brother Li is in charge of controlling the direction. Everyone else listen to my instructions. the red-clothed man said. When I say get ready, everyone inject their psychic powers into the wooden raft. I'll be in charge of firing. This sentence was actually meant for Ling Han. This wasn't the first time they had tried this. Ling Han still nodded. Rumble. A rolling rock came crashing down from the front. Get ready, the red-robed man said. Everyone instilled their psychic powers into the wooden raft. Ling Han immediately realized that the 10 people's psychic powers had all been absorbed by the wooden raft, but because they came from 10 different people, it was inevitable that the psychic powers were mixed. Fire! The red-robed man roared. Xiao! A ball of light lit up at the front of the wooden raft, and a beam of light shot out. With a bang, the rolling rock was smashed to pieces. Okay, the people on the wooden raft shouted. Ling Han, on the other hand, was recalling the scene he had just seen. Under the red-robed man's control, all of the psychic powers had been used to power the wooden raft. However, because the psychic powers were very mixed, not all of it had been used in that instant. At most, only 30% of it had been used. The rest of the psychic powers hadn't been used, but they had dissipated after the attack. In other words, the conversion rate was actually very low. Otherwise, the attack would have been even more powerful. Ling Han believed that the overall strength of the psychic powers determined the power of the wooden raft's attack. It was no wonder that they needed to form teams. One person was weak, and many people were strong. It was just that they didn't have much teamwork, so they couldn't use their psychic powers to their fullest potential. The wooden raft advanced quickly. Soon, another rolling rock appeared in front of them, crashing towards them. Get ready, the red-robed man shouted again. Everyone hurriedly channeled their psychic powers into the wooden raft. Ling Han was a little surprised. There weren't many people in Xianbei country who trained their psychic powers, but these people all had psychic powers. Had they all escaped from the cage? That made sense. Otherwise, it would be strange to have so many enlightened orifices and inscriptions. Someone who ate a mutant fruit and became a master in one night wouldn't have this kind of experience, and they wouldn't have brothers either. Bang, the second rolling rock was smashed. Everyone cheered excitedly again. This seemed easy. The 10 of them had only used 30% of their psychic powers, but they were still able to advance so quickly. That was because Ling Han's psychic powers were very strong. One of them could take on 2, or even 3. The wooden raft continued forward, and they were met with the third rolling rock. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The rolling rock was extremely loud. Something's wrong, the Li man muttered. Fuck. This time, 2 rolling rocks arrived one after the other. The distance between them was less than 10 meters. With the speed of the rolling rocks, this difference was at most half a second. Get ready, the red-robed man gritted his teeth. After I say fire, immediately channel your psychic powers. Everyone channeled their psychic powers into the wooden raft. Then, with a loud roar from the red-robed man, a beam of light shot out. Bang, the rolling rock shattered. Everyone hurriedly channeled their psychic powers into the wooden raft. Then, with a loud roar from the red-robed man, a beam of light shot out. Bang, the rolling rock shattered. Fire! The second beam of light shot out. Bang, the rolling rock exploded again. The crowd cheered, but it was too early for them to celebrate. They had only blown up 2/3 of the stone ball, and the remaining 1/3 was still rolling towards the wooden raft. Chapter 35-37. Everyone hurriedly launched attacks at the broken stone orb. Bam! The wooden raft suffered a heavy blow and stopped abruptly. Fortunately, the broken stone ball was also sent flying. It did not knock over the raft and cause everyone to fall down the mountain. The youth surnamed Li quickly stabilized the wooden raft and continued forward. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Although the last strike had caused their blood to boil and made them feel incomparably uncomfortable, they had still managed to neutralize the attack. Hurry up and recover. There should be 2 more balls appearing at the same time, the red-robed man said in a deep voice. But unexpectedly, the number of stones that appeared next became 1. This was very easy to deal with. After 2 waves, 2 more rolling stones appeared at the same time. Boom! The momentum was tremendous. Get ready! The red-clothed man shouted. Bang bang, it was still 2 consecutive hits. The first boulder was shattered, but the second one was still half intact. Ping, it came crashing down with unstoppable force. Although everyone worked together to block it, they could not withstand the power of the rolling boulder. Boom, the rolling boulder crashed down. This time, Mu Fa was not so lucky and was instantly flipped over. Everyone fell. In an instant, they were in a state of weightlessness, falling straight down from the waist of the mountain. Is this going to kill someone? Ling Han's first reaction was to enter the spirit-nourishing gourd, but thinking that the people who fell before were only seriously injured, he didn't want to expose the secret of the spirit-nourishing gourd. Everyone fell to the ground, and soon, the ground appeared. Ling Han immediately activated so near, yet worlds apart, and with a single step, he had already landed on the ground. However, a powerful rebounding force assaulted him, causing his entire body to tremble violently. It was as if all the bones in his body were about to fall apart. The impact was too powerful. Even if he used a movement technique, he would not be able to completely dodge it. Fortunately, Ling Han's bones had undergone 7 evolutions, and their toughness was something that ordinary engravement realm experts could not compare to. He sat down with his legs crossed and practiced the Monkey King's cultivation method over and over again. The warm energy flowed through his body. After a while, the boiling energy in his body finally calmed down. If Ling Han was already in such a state, the others were even more miserable. Each and every one of them was still moaning and groaning on the ground. It wasn't just the 9 men in red. More than 2/3 of the people who had climbed up the mountain earlier had appeared at the bottom of the mountain. They all had miserable expressions on their faces. It was obvious that they had all fallen down. Perhaps it was because they had arrived earlier that they had already recovered. Ling Han thought about it and decided to work alone. Of course, he wasn't alone. He called the milk babies out. The power of Mu Fa's attack depended on the overall strength of the telekinesis, but there was also the problem of combining the telekinesis. Without coordination, the 10 people's telekinesis would be very heterogeneous. They would not be able to unleash much power. However, Ling Han had absolute faith in the 7 babies. They were born from the same vine, so their minds must be connected. They were like septuplets. Of course, 7th brother could fall asleep at any time, so the 7 of them had to be counted as 6. Moreover, the milk babies all had innate divine bodies, so their psyche power was definitely not weak. The young man surnamed Li and the others lay down for a while and slowly recovered. There seemed to be a protective mechanism in place. It would cause them pain, but it wouldn't cause serious injuries. It's all this brat's fault. An engravement realm suddenly pointed at Ling Han. He didn't cooperate with us properly. That's why we failed at the last moment. His words won the agreement of several people, and they all glared at Ling Han. Ling Han was surprised. Indeed, he was partly to blame for everyone's lack of teamwork, but to push the blame onto him and make him take the blame alone was too much. That's right. Brother Li shouldn't have found an outsider. But an engravement realm would only suck up to us. Let him compensate us for our losses. The engravement realms were the ones who were making things difficult. All of them had cold expressions. It seemed like it was Ling Han's fault that they couldn't climb up the mountain. Ling Han sighed and said, "Do you have any shame? You caused us to fail at the last moment, and you still want to argue?" Someone criticized. "Take him down." 5 engravement realms jumped out and surrounded Ling Han. All of them had unfriendly expressions. They couldn't climb up the mountain, so they were naturally unhappy about their failure. They had to find someone to vent their anger on, and Ling Han, who had nothing to do with them, was definitely the best candidate. The 4 awakening realms watched coldly from the sidelines. Even the youth surnamed Li didn't have any intention of stopping them. They had to vent their anger, or else how could they unite the team? Ling Han shook his head. "Since you guys want to die so badly, then you can't blame anyone else." "Huh? You still dare to be so stubborn," someone sneered. "Don't let him die so easily. It'll take time for Mu Fa to reappear anyway. We'll slowly toy with him to death, one sword at a time." "All right." The others all nodded. They didn't feel like they were going overboard. Compared to the cruelty of the cage, they were already gentle enough. Ling Han snorted. His gaze was cold as he suddenly charged out. Bang! He punched out. His opponent didn't even have time to react before he was sent flying. His body exploded in midair, turning into a rain of blood. This caused the other 4 engravement realms to be stunned. They couldn't even wrap their heads around what had just happened. You brat! The young man surnamed Li and the other 3 opening aperture tier cultivators were enraged, especially the young man surnamed Li. He was the one who had brought Ling Han into the team, but in the end, Ling Han had killed one of his team members right under his nose. This made him even more furious, and he felt as if he had been deceived. You're in the engravement realm. You're courting death. He flew out and drew a saber from his waist. As he slashed out, a piercingly cold black saber chi slashed towards Ling Han. Strangely, there were actually several white skulls emerging from the saber chi, which was terrifying to the extreme. This is Ghost Shadow Elder's unique technique. Could he be Ghost Shadow Elder's disciple? An old monster at the true self realm. Shoo, you don't want to live anymore, daring to lie about a true self realm expert. Everyone discussed spiritedly, but how could their voices be faster than the blade light? The blade had already arrived in front of Ling Han. Ling Han was calm and unafraid, and merely delivered a punch. Pung! The blade aura immediately shattered, but the skulls seemed unaffected and entered Ling Han's body. Ha! The youth surnamed Li laughed loudly. Brat, do you think you can resist my ghost shadow blade just because you're a bit stronger? Humph! Being invaded by the blade aura, you can just wait to die. He was full of confidence. Those skulls were actually also blade aura that had been fused with some kind of secret technique. They were terrifyingly destructive to the physical body, and as long as they entered the body, they would undoubtedly die. As a response, Ling Han punched out again. Pung, an engravement realm was instantly blown apart. Boom, his blood chi was as vigorous as a furnace, burning fiercely. What? The youth surnamed Li's mouth was wide open, completely unable to believe his eyes. How could someone's blood chi be so vigorous that it could burn the corrosive power of his ghost shadow blade aura into ashes? Chapter 35-38. You scoundrel, die! Another enlightening realm cultivator flew over and attacked Ling Han. The one Ling Han had just killed with one punch was his junior. Ling Han didn't want to waste time and took out his warhammer. Once it was activated, blazing white lightning danced. He rushed out and killed the enlightening realm cultivator with one blow. His battle strength was enough to crush an enlightening realm cultivator, and with the power of a 1-star ritual implement, he killed them instantly. This time, the youth surnamed Li and the others were shocked to the bone. Who would have thought that the punching bag they were looking for was a demon king? This time, they had kicked an iron plate. Friend, let's talk this out. The youth surnamed Li immediately softened. Ling Han didn't pay attention to him and attacked aggressively. As he waved his warhammer, blazing lightning flashed. This was a 1-star ritual implement. Even though it couldn't display its full power, in Ling Han's hands, it had the power of a secret-seeking realm. How terrifying was this? Even an enlightening realm cultivator would feel numb after being hit by the lightning and lose the ability to dodge. Being hit by the warhammer, they would naturally be smashed into a bloody mess. Ling Han was expressionless as he slaughtered to his heart's content. 1, 2, 3. The youth surnamed Li and the others had a total of 9 people. Soon, only one was left, the youth surnamed Li. This was naturally done on purpose by Ling Han. He said indifferently, "Did I do anything wrong?" No. The youth surnamed Li shook his head repeatedly. Then why are you so aggressive? Ling Han asked. The youth surnamed Li couldn't answer. They had failed this time, and in order to maintain the stability of the team and vent their emotions, they naturally needed a punching bag to blame for their failure. Ling Han was such a person, but no one would have thought that this self-proclaimed engravement realm weakling was actually a killing god. Bang! Ling Han's hammer fell and killed the youth surnamed Li. He coldly glanced at the others, causing them to be shocked. They were afraid that he would become murderous and treat them as targets. Fortunately, Ling Han was not such a person. Ha! this hammer isn't bad. I'll take it. However, someone just happened to stand up and take the initiative to provoke Ling Han. This was a secret realm expert. Of course, it was not afraid of Ling Han. I want it too. What should we do? Another secret realm cultivator stood up. I'm also interested, the third secret-seeking realm said with a smile. The secret realm experts present spoke up one after another. A quick count showed that there were as many as 11 people. Ling Han swept his gaze over them and indifferently said, "Are you all so shameless? You want to join hands to deal with an engravement realm cultivator like me? What kind of joke is this? You're in the engravement realm." Everyone laughed. Even with the power of a ritual implement, Ling Han's own strength was still frighteningly strong. Could this be the engravement realm? It seemed that these people were determined to gang up on him and beat him up without caring about their reputation. Ling Han's figure moved, and with a single step he instantly disappeared. What? Where is he? Where did he go? The secret realm experts exclaimed. His speed was too fast. With just a step he disappeared. They couldn't even catch a trace of him. Damn it. He has a 1-star ritual implement and such a shocking body technique. He must be the disciple of some mighty figure. If he escapes, there will be endless trouble in the future, someone said regretfully. It's fine. He will have to go up the mountain eventually. We can just guard here. That's right. Let's stop him here. The secret realm experts quickly reached a consensus. A 1-star ritual implement was enough to make them want to kill him. In the distance, Ling Han had already quietly returned. He was someone who was willing to suffer losses. Of course not. He left before because he was outnumbered. 11 secret-seeking realms were too many. Even if he relied on the power of the ritual implement, he would barely be able to deal with one secret-seeking realm. If he was besieged by 11 secret-seeking realms, he would definitely die a tragic death. This time, his whole body was wrapped in the Void Beast's skin, completely concealing his traces and identity. He quietly approached and stared at a secret realm expert. Should he hit him with the gravestone fragment and let him be plagued with bad luck? Or should he just kill him with the heavenly pattern jade? Ling Han thought for a while and decided to use the gravestone fragment. He approached again and again until he was behind the man and smashed him with a brick. Back then, even Hong Tianbu was hit, let alone this kind of trash. Even if Hong Tianbu was only in the enlightening realm, he was much stronger than him. Bang! The man didn't even have time to react and immediately fell to the ground. There was a big bump on the back of his head. What's going on? Everyone looked over. A secret realm expert suddenly fell to the ground. How strange was this? Looking at the bump on the back of the man's head, everyone was sure that he must have been hit from behind. The problem was, no one saw anyone make a move. It must be that kid. He has the ability to hide himself. Everyone, back to back, form a circle. A few secret realm experts said one after another. Everyone quickly formed a circle. Some enlightening realm and engravement realm experts were gloomy. They didn't offend Ling Han, but they were kidnapped into this team. How innocent were they? They had no choice. If they didn't obey now, they would offend these secret realm experts. Kid, come out if you dare. After forming a circle with everyone, a secret realm expert began to challenge Qin Feng. Sneaking around like some expert. Do you dare to come out and fight? I won't bully you. One-on-one. These people challenged, but they didn't get any response from Ling Han. After a while, these people's mouths were dry, so they stopped to rest. At this moment, a white light suddenly appeared and hit one of the secret realm experts. Ha! Trying to sneak up on me? The secret realm expert sneered and punched at the white light. The white light was very fast, reaching 11 times the speed of sound, but the secret realm expert still managed to meet it. His fist was wrapped in high-level energy, like a heavy hammer. No matter what the white light was, it was smashed in one blow. Bang! The white light hit the secret realm expert's fist. Instantly, his fist exploded, but the white light didn't stop. It continued forward, and then the secret realm expert turned into a rain of blood. The rain of blood fell on the people nearby. Only then did they wake up. A secret realm expert had been beaten to death. Ling Han's figure appeared, and he grabbed the heavenly rune jade. The void beast's skin and the heavenly rune jade were a perfect match. It allowed him to accumulate power calmly, and others couldn't see where the attack came from. Within a short distance of 15 feet, the heavenly rune jade could unleash its strongest power and give the opponent no time to react. Hence, with just one strike, a secret-seeking realm cultivator fell. You! The remaining 9 secret realm experts glared at him. In a short while, one of the 2 secret realm experts was knocked unconscious, and the other was beaten to death. How could they not be angry and panicked? Ling Han smiled faintly, took a step, and disappeared again. Chapter 35-40. The stone-like creature was clearly ambushing them. When Ling Han tossed out the heavenly pattern jade, it immediately leaped into the air and charged at Ling Han. Unfortunately, it definitely didn't expect Ling Han to have such a powerful weapon in his possession. How could it possibly dodge an attack that was 11 times the speed of sound? If Ling Han hadn't made his move yet, it could still dodge in advance by judging Ling Han's movements. However, once the heavenly pattern jade was thrown out, it was 11 times the speed of sound and at such a close distance. Even a secret seeker wouldn't be able to dodge, not to mention that it was coming for Ling Han. Bam! The creature exploded in just one blow. The heavenly pattern jade was a 2-star material and a spiritual energy magic tool. Even if it was activated by Ling Han, it still possessed an astonishing power. Ling Han walked over. Though this creature had been blasted into smithereens, there was no blood or flesh left behind. Instead, there was only a gray round core that was only about the size of a candy date. He picked it up and saw lines of patterns on it, giving off an ancient aura. This isn't a creature. Ling Han was puzzled. He could clearly see the blood chi of this thing, but it wasn't made of flesh and blood. Judging from the round core, the stone-like creature must have been formed by a formation. That was why it didn't have flesh and blood, and this round core was its core. Ling Han tossed the round core in his hand. He couldn't see anything special about it, but he still put it away. He naturally couldn't just throw away something he didn't know of. It didn't take up much space anyway. Let's go. They continued forward. This time, Ling Han paid attention and carefully observed the stones on both sides of the road. If he saw anything strange, he would use his eye ability to observe. There was no harm in being careful. He actually discovered a few monsters formed by a formation. Instead, he ambushed them with the heavenly pattern jade and killed them cleanly. If others saw this, they would definitely cry out in disbelief. When did the engravement realm become so awesome? They could kill monsters 2 levels above them. The number of round cores in Ling Han's hand gradually increased. Although he studied them in detail, he did not discover anything strange. However, he still kept every single one of them. By the end of the day, Ling Han had collected 25 round cores, which meant that he had killed 25 monsters formed by the formation. This battle record was quite impressive, especially since Ling Han was only at the engravement realm. No one would believe him even if he told them about it. It couldn't be helped. The monsters formed by the formation wanted to ambush them, and Ling Han just had to have the heavenly rune jade. Otherwise, even if Ling Han was lucky enough to succeed, it would only be an isolated case, unlike now, where he succeeded time and time again. Moreover, it was all a fatal blow. His efficiency was too high. When night fell, the rugged and steep mountain road finally came to an end. A stone house appeared in front of him, standing out of place. Behind the stone house was a large lake. Ling Han thought for a moment, then used his eye ability to check the stone house before walking over. The house was very simple. There was only a large stone table. The strange thing was that there was a circle of holes in the center of the stone table. After counting, there were 9 of them. They were not big, and at most, an object the size of a date could be placed in them. It can't be so coincidental, right? Ling Han subconsciously took out a round core and placed it in the hole. He was just right. Half of it was embedded in the hole, and the other half was exposed. It seemed to be tailor-made. "It's all right," fourth baby said. "Hey, Dad, you brought so many beads. Try putting them all in here," fifth baby said. Ling Han did as he was told and put in one round core after another. When all 9 round cores had been put in, a strange scene appeared. The 9 round cores sank at the same time, and a stone appeared in the center of the table. It was slightly smaller than a fist. "Hey, this is a god stone. This is the extreme frost stone," second baby said immediately. Using this as the core to build an immortal foundation, it can allow the immortal foundation to have the power of extreme cold, comparable to a 9th grade magical power. 9th grade magical power? This was already very powerful. After all, it was a magical power. To be given such a title, it naturally had to be very powerful. Ling Han was surprised. So killing monsters could be exchanged for treasures. He put away the extreme frost stone and put in the 9 round cores. When the round cores disappeared, a stone immediately replaced them. "Flame Spirit Stone," 7th baby said, yawning as he spoke. It can allow a warrior to have a flame god. Before the word "connect" could come out of her mouth, she did not disappoint them. She fell asleep with a "hoo-hoo-hoo" sound, as expected of the sleeping god. Unfortunately, there were only 7 round cores left. It was not enough to exchange for another god stone. Although he had only obtained 2 god stones that could only be compared to a 9th grade magical power, it was already very powerful. It was said that the best god stone could not compare to a 1st grade magical power. It could not be helped. The best innate divine body had to be gifted by the heavens. Ling Han did not stay in the stone house for long. If he spent the night here, it was very likely that someone would come over in the middle of the night. Who knew if they would have evil intentions towards him? There was also Hong Tianbu. He reckoned that this person should still be searching for him in the outer island area because he did not have the passage stone. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to come to the foot of the mountain. Therefore, Hong Tianbu should have searched for a long time before realizing that he had already gone up the mountain. Ling Han left the stone house. Next was a large lake, and there was a small boat on the shore. This boat was really very small and could only fit one person. Ling Han let the milk baby and perverted pig enter into the origin nurturing gourd, while he jumped onto the small boat. Paddling, he rowed towards the other side of the lake. Whoosh, the wooden paddle entered the water and created a splash. The night wind blew, making people feel relaxed and happy. Ling Han also had a sense of relaxation that he had never felt before. After entering this world, he had been constantly cultivating and fighting. It was rare for him to have a relaxing moment like this on the lake. He closed his eyes and just paddled like that, enjoying the feeling of the lake water gently beating against the small boat. Wait a minute. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked towards the lake. His expression could not help but change. The moon in the lake did not change at all. How could it be? The lake water was moving, that would definitely cause the reflection of the moon to change. At this moment, a large wave suddenly rose on the surface of the lake. A huge tentacle broke out of the water and heavily whipped towards the small boat. If Ling Han had been relaxed and careless before, then this attack was very likely to consign him to eternal damnation. However, since he was already vigilant, it was naturally impossible for him to be hit. He jumped up high and leapt forward. Because he did not use imminent skyline, and it was indeed a little rushed, this leap only covered a distance of a few hundred feet. Ling Han's right foot landed and stepped on the surface of the water. He planned to borrow a little tension from the surface of the water. However, when his foot touched the surface of the water, he did not borrow the slightest bit of strength at all. His entire body immediately sank. Chapter 35:41. Ling Han sank all the way to the bottom, as if the water in the lake was all air, unable to provide even the slightest buoyancy. And he looked carefully. The moon in the water was not a reflection at all, but a giant eye, silvery white in color. At this moment, a giant creature also charged toward him. It had 8 strangely long and soft legs, and as soon as it touched the bottom of the lake, its body suddenly sped up, moving at an incredible speed. This was a giant octopus. Shwa! The octopus had already pulled out a tentacle, and it struck toward him. Ling Han sank to the bottom and immediately tapped his feet, wanting to break out of the water and return to the shore. But he was surprised to find that when he was sinking, the lake water seemed to not exist, but when he wanted to jump up, the water pressure pressed down layer by layer, making it impossible for him to use his speed. The tentacle had already reached him. Ling Han hurriedly swung out a fist to meet it. Pung! A huge shock came, and he was immediately sent flying. Under the resistance of the water, he did not retreat too far, but the inside of his body was in turmoil, and it was indescribably uncomfortable. This was a being in the mystery-seeking realm, and it was probably standing at the peak of the mystery-seeking realm. This power was too terrifying. If Ling Han had not cultivated the 7 bones, this blow was enough to shatter half of his bones. Fortunately, under the protection of the incomparably hard bones, his internal organs were only shaken and not damaged. Shua! The octopus whipped out another tentacle. Ling Han had no time to care about the discomfort in his body and hurriedly took out his warhammer. Lightning surged, and he struck toward the octopus. However, although the main target of the electric discharge in the water was the giant octopus, it was inevitable that a portion of the current would overflow, and it was transmitted to Ling Han's body. Immediately he shivered and he almost dropped the hammer. Under the attack of the lightning, a sliver of sluggishness appeared on the giant octopus, giving Ling Han a chance to dodge. Pung! The tentacle lashed out, and the entire surface of the lake began to boil. It also kicked up a great deal of sand, causing the originally crystal-clear lake water to become incredibly turbid. This giant octopus was way too ferocious. Even after eating a 1-star magic tool raw, the attack only slowed down for a moment. Although Ling Han could not unleash the full power of the magic tool, it should be enough to give the secret realm a hard time. Shua! The octopus attacked again. Ling Han struck out with a baleful aura attack. This was formed during the 7 transformations, and it was guaranteed that no one else in the world would have such an ability. There was no such thing as a distance for baleful aura attacks. They could be launched in an instant. However, the octopus was not affected at all. Its tentacles lashed out with the same ferocity. Damn, it's not affected by baleful aura attacks. This was not a proper octopus, otherwise how could it be like this? Ling Han swung his warhammer at the tentacles. Although this would affect him, it was better than being killed by the tentacles. He activated his eye sorcery, but the octopus was vivid and lifelike. It did not seem fake at all. However, Ling Han saw the flaw in this attack. He moved his body and dodged the attack again. He had never been a passive defensive person. While dodging, he counterattacked and threw out a punch. However, in the water, every bit of the punch was reduced by the water's resistance. Therefore, when the punch hit the octopus, at least 1/3 of the punch was wasted. Bang! This punch hit the octopus. It did not cause any damage, but a layer of ripples formed on its skin. Because Ling Han had activated his eye sorcery, he could see more things. When the punch hit, the octopus tightened its skin, spreading the power evenly over a large area, reducing the power of the punch to almost 0. However, taking advantage of these few attacks, Ling Han finally retreated to the shore. Then he broke out of the water and returned to the shore. The giant octopus emerged from the water and stared at him for a while with one huge eye. Then, it slowly sank into the lake. In just a moment, the entire lake returned to its previous calm. Ling Han frowned. This lake was extremely wide, and it was impossible to jump across it. Furthermore, he could not borrow any strength from the surface of the water. Once he fell into the water, the resistance was shockingly strong. Moreover, the giant octopus would immediately rush over to attack, making it extremely difficult to cross the sea. Why could this small boat float again? This place was indeed strange. Ling Han decided to use so close, yet worlds apart. With this step, he could cross over 100 miles. Crossing this large lake should not be a problem. He immediately took a step forward. However, there seemed to be an invisible wall in the air. Bang! He hit the wall, and his whole body immediately slid down from the air, falling into the lake with a splash. In just an instant, the giant octopus had already arrived. Shua! It waved its tentacles, showing no mercy. In any case, they could be considered acquaintances. Couldn't it give him some face? Ling Han hurriedly used all his skills and retreated all the way back to the shore. He had originally wanted to go around the giant octopus to the other end, but there was no way. The octopus had 8 legs, and its defense was impenetrable. Even so close, yet worlds apart could not pass through. Use the heavenly pattern jade. Ling Han thought of the giant octopus's strange way of dissolving energy and felt that it would be difficult to use the heavenly pattern jade. More importantly, the octopus was hiding at the bottom of the lake. Even if he shot the heavenly pattern jade out, it would be affected by the resistance of the water. How fast could it reach? Use the void beast skin. He put it on and entered the water. He immediately found that his invisibility had lost its effect after being soaked in the water. Fuck, how was this even possible? He could only cross it. Ling Han thought for a moment. If the octopus attacked, he could steer the boat to evade and use his ocular sorcery to see through the opponent's attack. He could then seize the opportunity to cross it. It was obviously impossible to defeat or even kill this giant monster. He once again crossed on the boat. After a short distance, bang, the water surface split open. As expected, the giant octopus attacked again. Ling Han swung the warhammer in his right hand and shot out lightning. Now that he was on the boat, he did not have to worry about being affected by the lightning. He paddled with his left hand, and with a forceful stroke, the small boat broke through the water surface at an astonishing speed. While the octopus was numb from the lightning, the small boat quickly evaded the attack and sped forward. However, the octopus had 8 tentacles. Even if he dodged one, there was still another. Ling Han activated his ocular sorcery and saw everything. The world seemed to be moving at a speed 100 times slower than before. Both of his hands were moving at the same time. His right hand attacked and his left hand paddled. Swimming freely in the middle of the octopus's bombardment, he always found a chance of survival. Bang bang bang. The whole lake was set off by the waves, and the small boat was swaying erratically as if it would capsize at any time. However, under Ling Han's control, it maintained an amazing stability. He dodged the first round of attacks and finally broke through the octopus's blockade, rushing towards the other side of the lake. The octopus chased after him. It was even faster than before, waving its 8 tentacles, and began the second round of bombardment. Ling Han was still the same as before. He swung his warhammer to create a chance for himself to escape, while paddling quickly. Only by reaching the other side of the lake can he really get rid of the octopus. End of chapter. Chapter 35-42. Bang, bang, bang. Behind Ling Han, the water splashed up to a height of nearly 300 meters, creating a terrifyingly huge wave. The surface of the lake rippled like a carpet, adding a lot of trouble to Ling Han. The difficulty of controlling the boat suddenly increased greatly. Fortunately, his telekinesis was strong. If there was any mistake, he could use it to adjust the boat's bow in time and continue to move in the right direction. This was a big fight. The giant octopus seemed to be invincible, and he could only hide from it. After a long time, the lake finally appeared in front of him. Ling Han was overjoyed. After paddling a few more times, he leaped towards the other side of the lake. Swoosh, 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 the giant octopus made its final attack, its 8 claws moving together. Pung, Ling Han landed on the ground. He turned around to look, and the octopus's tentacle brushed past his back. A strong wind whistled, causing his hair to flutter in the wind, but that was all. The giant octopus did not attack again, only staring at him. Ling Han made a face and laughed. 8-legged monster, chase me again if you dare. Believe it or not, I'll make you into a grilled squid. Of course, the giant octopus would not answer him. Its body gradually sank into the water, and soon disappeared. If I had entered the enlightenment state, even if I couldn't kill this ugly monster, I wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Ling Han sighed, looking a bit depressed. What he didn't realize was that in the past, only arcana-seeking cultivators would come to Ethereal Peak. Even Enlightening Realm cultivators weren't qualified to set foot on the island. However, there was a gap in martial arts. Now that ethereal peak was here, basically anyone below the immortal path would be defeated. They wouldn't even be qualified to set foot on the island. It was really not easy for him to make it here alone. Ling Han continued forward. There was another long mountain road ahead, winding all the way. He was careful to see if there would be any stone monsters formed by formations. But he worried too much. It was a very peaceful journey. As he walked, Ling Han felt the mountains suddenly become flat. At this time, the mountain road also came to an end. A canyon appeared in front of him, and at the entrance of the canyon, there was a large group of people either sitting or standing. Ling Han thought for a moment, then took out a mask and put it on. He was now the palace lord of the External Affairs Department, and there should be many people who had opinions about him. It was best to hide his identity. To be able to walk ahead of him, these people should not be simple. After he put on the mask, he could also hide his cultivation. No one would doubt him if he said that he was in the secret realm. Otherwise, if his cultivation was too low, it would sometimes cause trouble. Therefore, it was better to avoid trouble. After all, he was here for the God's Stone. Fighting was secondary. He strode over, immediately attracting the attention of many people. Finally, another one. Someone laughed. He was from the sea race because he had gills and fish whiskers on his face. As for what species he was, no one knew. He doesn't seem to be very strong. Another person said. He was from the demon race. He had the head of a mouse, but his hair was golden, and he gave off the aura of a lion. Indeed, his strength is a little weak, a third person said. He was really a human, and there was nothing strange about him from his appearance. Naturally, although Ling Han was monstrous, he was still only a three-vein. In the eyes of the secret realm, he was naturally not strong enough. I am Han Lin. Ling Han saluted with his fists. Hee, why are you still covering your face? Is it too ugly? A woman covered her mouth and laughed. She was quite pretty and had a good figure, but her words made people feel uncomfortable. Ling Han knew that his strength was too weak, which made people look down on him from the bottom of their hearts. Fuck, you've angered me. I'll set up a large and absolutely fair matrix around and see how many people can stand up to me. Ling Han didn't act out. The group gathered together and didn't move forward. Either there was a dangerous obstacle ahead, or there was a fortune here that they didn't want to leave. Sure enough, someone told him that there was a cavern here. According to historical records, there were divine stones inside, and even top-grade myriad star stones. Using them to cultivate to an immortal foundation would allow one to obtain a portion of the myriad star immortal physique's power. One had to know that the myriad star immortal physique was a top-grade innate divine physique. As long as one didn't die, they could at least become a sect master-level expert in the future. Thus, these people covetously eyed the myriad star stones. But the problem was that there were many blood thread pythons in this cavern. Adult blood thread pythons could reach the secret realm. Moreover, they were different from other pythons. Not only were they powerful, but they were also extremely poisonous. Thus, they were extremely troublesome to deal with. There weren't just 1 or 2 blood thread pythons in the cavern, but at least a few hundred. This was quite frightening. Even these self-proclaimed geniuses didn't dare to trespass. They had to find enough people before they could join forces. Ling Han was recruited by them. Who told him to be so weak? They were very straightforward. Fight with them or die. There was no third choice. If Ling Han was really in the secret realm, or even if he reached the enlightened apertures, these people wouldn't dare to threaten him like this. Instead, they would invite him to join them and promise him benefits. But now, he had to exert his strength, but there were no benefits. Hey, how ugly are you? You don't even show your face. The woman from before still didn't give up. She was still staring at Ling Han, insisting on seeing his face. Ling Han ignored her. He naturally wouldn't reveal his true face. There were several acquaintances here, such as Jin Yulu. If she saw him, would she take this opportunity to kill him? Brat, you've got guts. You don't even put me in your eyes? The woman revealed a fierce look. Forget it, forget it. Someone on the side advised. The woman still didn't give up. She kept shouting, saying that she, Ma Qiuling, had never seen such an arrogant person. She couldn't even close her mouth. Don't lower yourself to his level. When we attack the snake cave, let him be the vanguard. We'll kill him first, the person who advised said. Ma Qiuling was finally willing to give up. But her gaze towards Ling Han was still extremely unfriendly. Ling Han snorted in his heart. Just by looking at their expressions, he knew that these two definitely didn't have any good intentions. I won't kill you. When night fell, a few more people came, but they were all masters of the secret realm. They were either from the Sea clan or from the cages. Now, these two places had the most young masters coming out. Because these people were powerful, they were politely invited to attack the snake cave together with them. In comparison, Ling Han's treatment could not be any worse. When night came, most of the people closed their eyes and rested. They were not made of steel, so it was necessary for them to rest properly. It was almost time. Ling Han quietly took out the beast skin of the void, put it on, and immediately disappeared into the void. He looked at the tent where Ma Qiuling was, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 35-44. At the end of the cavern, there was a huge blood-striped snake. Its body was as thick as a bucket, and even though it was coiled, it was at least 30 meters long. There were lines on its body that looked like they were smeared with blood. This was how the blood-striped snake got its name. The bloodlines also emitted a foul smell that was highly toxic. Ling Han frowned. Although the blood-striped snake from before had also emitted a highly toxic aura, it was far less intense. He would be fine if he held his breath for a while, but the blood-striped snake in front of him was too big, and the toxic aura it emitted was even more intense. Moreover, it seemed to have been coiled here, so the poisonous gas in this area was even more intense. They were still some distance away, but Ling Han felt like he was about to faint. Was this the Snake King? Obviously, this snake was not at the immortal path level. Otherwise, it could easily see through his disguise. Under his control, the void beast's skin could not become invisible in front of an immortal path level cultivator. This was the king of the secret realm, and its strength far exceeded that of the other blood-striped snakes. Ling Han's eyes swept past the large snake. He saw that there was a strange stone beside the large snake. There seemed to be innumerable stars hidden inside, and they were emitting a faint light. The million-star stone. Ling Han could immediately conclude that it was the most precious thing in the entire cavern. He saw a purple plant beside the million-star stone. It was about a foot tall, and its stem was like purple jade, crystal clear. This was the purple jade spirit grass. Ling Han was pleasantly surprised. This was good stuff. Eating it could improve one's cultivation. The problem was that the purple jade spirit grass was beside the Snake King. If he got too close, would the Snake King notice him? However, he was too eager to improve his realm. Here, if he did not enter the Enlightenment realm, he would have to rely on celestial devices to deal with the people in the secret realm. He believed that many people here had celestial devices. Once they fought, he would be at a great disadvantage. So he had to enter the secret realm quickly. He had to get it. Ling Han stealthily approached. When he was only a few feet away, the Snake King sensed something. It raised its head and looked around. It stuck out its tongue as if it had discovered something. Ling Han quickly stopped. After a while, the Snake King's head drooped down again as if it had fallen asleep again. Apart from hunting for food, snakes would generally curl up to rest and not waste energy. Even a powerful existence like the blood-striped snake did not change this characteristic. Ling Han held his breath. Firstly, it was to defend against the invasion of the poisonous gas. Secondly, it was to avoid being sensed by the Snake King as much as possible. With his current strength, holding it for half an hour was not a problem, but it was not safe. The poisonous gas still had a strong corrosive effect on his skin, making him feel waves of itch, and he wanted to scratch it to his heart's content. He looked down. Sure enough, his skin was red and slightly swollen. He had to be faster. Otherwise, he would be poisoned even if he did not inhale the poisonous gas. Ling Han sped up a little, but this immediately alerted the Snake King. It raised its head again, and this time, it stared in Ling Han's direction. Its green eyes were full of ferocity, making Ling Han feel a little sweaty. Fortunately, the Snake King did not attack in the end. It slowly leaned its head down again. Ling Han did not dare to speed up anymore. This would attract the Snake King's attention. Haste makes waste. He walked slowly, like a turtle crawling. It was not that he did not consider using the heavenly rune jade to launch a sneak attack, but the Snake King buried its head in its body when it was resting. It was impossible to hit it directly. With its huge body and the vitality of snakes, even if it was cut in half, it would not die for a while. If the Snake King went crazy, it would be enough to kill Ling Han many times over. After a long time, Ling Han finally came to the side of the Myriad Star Stone and the purple jade spirit grass. He grabbed the Myriad Star Stone in one hand and the purple jade spirit grass in the other. He suddenly pulled the spirit grass up and ran. Suddenly, the Snake King reacted immediately. Its tail flashed wildly and whipped toward Ling Han. Its speed was extremely fast, and the Snake King spat out a rolling poisonous mist from its mouth. With a leap, Ling Han had already reached the corner in front of him. He immediately turned around and threw the Origin Nurturing Gourd into a very large crack in the rocks at the top. Then, with a xiu, he himself also entered inside. The Snake King swam over and naturally lost track of Ling Han. It stuck out its tongue and sensed Ling Han's aura, but found nothing. It wandered for a long time, and many bloodstring pythons swam over to search with their boss. However, it was all in vain. As soon as Ling Han entered the Spirit Nourishing Gourd, he immediately took out the detoxification pill and ate it. Although it was not a special detoxification pill, it was still helpful in detoxifying the poison. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" The milk babies all gathered around, and Perverted Pig just showed a gloating expression. "It's nothing," he said. Ling Han used the Monkey King's technique to detoxify the poison. His heart beat vigorously, spewing out a mighty life force, and his liver was also secreting detoxifying substances. The efficiency was amazing. This was because he had more than 1,000,000 inscriptions on these two organs, and their performance was naturally far superior to other inscription realm cultivators. Even so, he still spent a day to detoxify the poison completely. Ling Han wanted to leave, but he heard the sound of fighting coming from outside. The group of people outside had fought in. Ling Han thought about it and decided to hide here for a while. His invisibility was not like second babies, which could truly escape into the void and be untouchable. Instead, once he was hit, he would show his flaws. In a chaotic battle, the chances of being hit were too high. He took out the purple jade spirit grass. Anyway, it didn't matter where he refined it. Should he cook it? Such a thought flashed through Ling Han's mind, and then he laughed. This was not a meal, so there was no need to care about whether it was delicious or not. He picked up the purple jade spirit grass and took a bite. With a crunch, he bit off a section, and immediately a sour taste spread in his mouth. So unpalatable. Forget it, he chewed and swallowed the food into his stomach. After a few bites, Ling Han felt the heat in his abdomen, and the medicine was already working. He stopped and used the Monkey King's technique to refine the medicine. As the secret power flowed, he pushed the expansion of his meridians. The movement outside was getting louder and louder, but Ling Han did not notice it. He wholeheartedly pushed the expansion of his meridians, so that the secret power could be stored more, and the explosive power would be more sufficient. When the medicine disappeared, he chewed a few more bites, and then continued. After a day and a night, he finally reached the end of the three-vein realm. His meridians could no longer expand. Even if it was just a little bit more, he felt waves of pain. All right, he could try to break through to the four-vein realm. Without hesitation, he began to break through. Raising a small realm was too easy for him. The difficult part was how to carve more inscriptions on his internal organs in a limited time. Chapter 35-45. The battle outside was getting more and more intense, and it was getting closer to the bottom of the cave. Ling Han was still oblivious. He was at the crucial moment of breaking through to the fourth vein. His vitality had already begun to advance by leaps and bounds. He began to inscribe inscriptions on the fourth organ. After inscribing 1,000,000 inscriptions, his speed immediately slowed down. This time, he once again reached the level of 1,170,000 veined patterns. Ling Han was still not satisfied. He hoped to break through his limits every time. Just as he was about to go out, he found that there was a fierce battle going on outside. Jin Yulu and the other powerhouses were working together to attack the last cave, but the Snake King was blocking the door, so they were temporarily unable to break through. Although the Snake King was in the secret-seeking realm, his combat power was far beyond that. Moreover, his vitality was too exuberant, and he had no vital points on his body. Therefore, even if he was besieged by secret-seeking realm experts, he could hold out for a long time. However, no matter how strong they were still in the secret-seeking realm. How could they withstand the siege of more than a dozen secret-seeking realm experts, especially Jin Yulu and the others? Not only were they one-star geniuses, but they also had powerful magic weapons. Their combat power was too strong. However, the Serpent King was also very strong. The poisonous fog was a great threat to everyone, and the scales on its body could also be used as armor. Its defense was very strong. Therefore, the battle lasted for half a day, and everyone paid a great price before they were finally killed. After killing the Snake King, everyone hurriedly rushed into the last cave. "Where are the divine stones?" Someone shouted, somewhat flustered and exasperated. "Didn't they say the parangons are in the last cave? Where are they? Did someone steal it?" Everyone was furious. How much had they paid to fight their way here? They had been injured, their secret treasures had been consumed, and they had wasted a lot of time. Now that they had finally reached this place, they had gained nothing. They had worked so hard for nothing. Who could endure this? Anyone would have flipped out. The atmosphere at the scene was very tense. It was impossible for the God's Stone to disappear for no reason. Moreover, the Snake King was here, so it was impossible for it to be stolen. Therefore, one of them must have taken all the things. Who took it? Obediently hand it over. "Don't force me to take action," said an Oceanid male. He was a lobsterman with a long tail. His arms were also a pair of large red pincers that were covered in black fur. "Ha, little lobster, who are you trying to scare?" Someone was unhappy and immediately retorted sarcastically. This was a human who came from the cage. With a life core realm warrior standing behind him, he naturally wasn't afraid of the Sea Tribe's heaven's favorites. "Do you want to die?" the lobsterman asked. The sea race also had their own foundation. Even if a life core realm expert went there, he still had to be careful. Otherwise, he might not be able to return. "Are you threatening me?" that human asked indifferently. He was extremely displeased that he didn't find the divine stone he was looking forward to. The relationship between the human race and the sea race had always been full of contradictions. Previously, there was a need for them to cooperate, but now that the Snake Cave had been swept away, this temporary alliance was naturally dissolved. "Don't be impulsive. Let's deal with the God's Stone first." Jin Yulu stretched out her hand. Once a fight broke out, the thief might take advantage of the chaos to escape. How could that be acceptable? She firmly believed that one of them must have taken the God's Stone and hidden it in a spatial artifact. What they needed to do now was very simple. Everyone had to take out their spatial magic tools so that it would be clear who did it. "All right, everyone, take out your spatial magic tools." Even if there were occasionally a few people who were unwilling, they didn't dare to provoke the crowd. Moreover, since they didn't take it themselves, they naturally had more confidence. Hence, everyone took out their spatial magic tools and let others check. But after checking all the spatial magic tools, there was still no trace of the God's Stone. Who's still hiding a spatial magic tool? The lobsterman from before started to flip out again. He moved his two large pincers and was full of killing intent. He was determined to obtain the Myriad Star Stone. No matter who it was, he would kill them and take the God's Stone. Even Jin Yulu lost her patience. She secretly held onto the hilt of her sword and prepared to attack. Ling Han watched from the gourd and couldn't help but feel happy. "Fight, hurry up and fight." Even if you kill until only one person is left, you won't find a single God's Stone even if you search the corpses of the others. A voice suddenly sounded, attracting everyone's attention. Junior Hong. Jin Yulu immediately called out. The person who had come was Hong Tianbu. Hong Tianbu. Someone who had seen his picture immediately said, "It's me." Hong Tianbu strode out. Although he was also in the secret-seeking realm, after fusing with the eye of an ancient beast, his aura was incomparably shocking. Everyone couldn't help but feel a sense of suffocation. This caused everyone to be unconvinced. Everyone was clearly in the secret-seeking realm, so why was there such a huge difference? Moreover, this man was just a native of Xianbei country. He was inferior to a native. How could this be endured? Hong Tianbu, what do you mean by that? A human asked. He was also from the prison realm, but he wasn't with Jin Yulu. Hong Tianbu smiled faintly and said, "Because long before you fought here, the god's stone had already been taken away." How is that possible? The lobsterman sneered. Hong Tianbu, don't think that you can speak without thinking just because you have the title of a genius. In my eyes, you're just a nameless nobody. Bang! The lobsterman hadn't even finished speaking when he was sent flying, crashing into the cave wall. Instantly, many rocks fell down. Hong Tianbu slowly retracted his hand. He didn't even look at the lobsterman. Instead, he swept his gaze over everyone. Now, can you all pay attention to what I have to say? Everyone was shocked to discover that the lobsterman's carapace had been broken and green blood flowed out. One had to know that those who could escape and attack the Serpent King were all experts among experts. But right now, such an expert wasn't even able to withstand a single blow from Hong Tianbu. So strong, no, too strong. Only Jin Yulu had a smile on her face. If Hong Tianbu wasn't so strong, how could he have caught her master's eye and been accepted as a disciple? Seeing that everyone was silent, Hong Tianbu then said, "I dare to conclude that all the god's stones here were taken by a single person." He paused for a moment. Seeing that everyone was looking over, Hong Tianbu then continued, "This person is Ling Han." Ling Han. Many people revealed blank expressions. Who was this person? Ling Han. Some people didn't believe it. They had heard of Ling Han. Even though he was a monster, he was currently only at the engravement realm. Unless this person ate a treasure fruit of heaven and earth and suddenly soared to the secret-seeking realm. This person has a treasure that can conceal his body. Therefore, he snuck in here first and took away the god's stones, causing all of you to work for nothing, Hong Tianbu continued. What? Only then did everyone start to believe Hong Tianbu's words. Just now, this Hong understood that Ma Qiuling was mysteriously knocked unconscious by someone. Do you all still remember? Hong Tianbu continued. Ah, could it be him? Everyone cried out in surprise. Chapter 3546. Hong Tianbu, thank you so much. Ling Han gritted his teeth in the essence-nurturing gourd. This guy was trying to provoke everyone's hatred towards him. For the top-grade foundation building divine stone, these people would definitely hunt him down. They were all existences in the mystic realm and were most likely one-star geniuses. To be honest, Ling Han would not be able to handle it. That's why Hong Tianbu was ruthless. He made so many enemies for Ling Han, making up for his lack of manpower. I understand. One person suddenly slapped his thigh. Isn't Han Lin Ling Han? So, this guy had been planning to deceive us from the beginning. Despicable guy. Damn it. Hong Tianbu didn't need to remind them. They were not stupid and quickly reacted. Sigh, Ling Han did not report his real name because he did not want to cause trouble. But now, from these people's point of view, Ling Han was deliberately mocking them after the matter was over, causing them to widen their eyes in anger. They wished they could immediately capture Ling Han and torture him 100 times. Of course, they had to snatch the foundation building divine stone first. Thank you, Brother Hong. Everyone cupped their hands and thanked Hong Tianbu. If Hong Tianbu did not reveal the truth in time, they would have killed each other. If Ling Han knew about this, wouldn't it be a huge joke? Moreover, Hong Tianbu's martial art talent was too terrifying, and he was about to be accepted as a disciple by a spirit transformation true lord. What was wrong with forming a good relationship with such a person? At this moment, Hong Tianbu revealed an arrogant expression and ignored the flattery of others. He was willing to stand up and reveal the truth only to attract hatred for Ling Han. More people would join him to hunt down Ling Han, not to stop these people from killing each other. Dying 10,000 times had nothing to do with him. When they recalled that the divine stone for establishing the celestial foundation had already been taken away by Ling Han, none of them had the mood to stay any longer. They all bid farewell and left. They wanted to be the first to find Ling Han, lest someone else beat them to it. If that happened, they would lose the opportunity to obtain the myriad star stone. When everyone had left, Jin Yulu smiled and said, "Junior brother Hong is truly wise. Yulu admires you." "You flatter me, senior sister." Towards Jin Yulu's words, Hong Tianbu was still rather polite. He bowed slightly and smiled, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth, causing Jin Yulu to be a little flustered. "Let's go too," she said hurriedly. Hong Tianbu nodded his head and revealed a proud smile. He felt a sense of accomplishment to have won the heart of a beauty from the secret-seeking realm. However, when he thought of Princess Bai Xiao, he could not help but frown. He had been suppressed by Ling Han. This kid must die. After everyone left, Ling Han leisurely took out the energy-nourishing gourd. "Father, you seem to be hated by others," second baby said in a childish voice. "What are you talking about?" Fourth baby hurriedly said, "That's right. Can't you see that father is panicking?" Fifth baby added, "Hee hee, you look constipated." Sixth baby laughed. "What's there to be afraid of? We'll kill whoever comes." Eldest baby was full of murderous intent. Ling Han shook his head. These children were really little ancestors. Don't look at how they were all innocent and adorable and could make others dig their hearts out to like them, but in truth, they were all super problematic children. Sigh, let's not think about it. He originally wanted to change his mask, but after thinking about it, he realized that everyone was chasing after him. If he covered his face, it would be the same as saying that there was something wrong with him. It was better to be frank and show his true face to others. That way, he might be able to fool some people. After all, not everyone could recognize him. So be it. Ling Han left with the children. His heart was filled with hope. If there was another opportunity like the Snake Cave, it would allow his cultivation to improve a few more levels. As long as he could enter the enlightenment stage, he would see who would beat who. He might not be able to defeat the top secret-seeking realm, but there should not be more than 10 people like him. How many one-star geniuses could there be? Unfortunately, this divine mountain mainly produced divine stones for immortal building. Treasured fruits and herbs that could improve cultivation were not here. It was lucky enough to find one. Out of the Snake Cave and out of the canyon, the terrain became steep again. They went all the way to the top. If he brought along a group of milk babies, they would be too big of a target. Thus, when the milk babies were tired of looking at the scenery, Ling Han put them into the origin nurturing gourd, leaving only the perverted pig by his side. This was a shield. If someone really attacked him, he could raise it to block at any time. Perverted pig was eating when he suddenly shivered. He looked up at Ling Han. He felt that this human was somewhat unreliable and would sell him out at any time. After eating, Ling Han continued forward with perverted pig. The mountain road here was very complicated. It was impossible to use high speed, or else it would be easy to hit the mountain wall. However, Ling Han's control of his body was too good. He was still faster than the average person. So it did not take long before a figure appeared in front of him. He caught up. When he passed by, the person glanced at him and then retracted his gaze, as if he did not know him at all. Sure enough, Ling Han nodded. There should not be many people who recognized him. His pace was not slow at all. Soon he caught up with another person. When he passed by, the person glanced at him and then frowned, as if he was thinking about something. When Ling Han overtook and walked more than 100 feet, he heard a loud roar coming from behind. "Ling Han, don't run." Well, this person had obviously seen Ling Han's photo before. It was just that he could not recall it for a while. That was why he was thinking hard and just felt that he looked familiar. The person chased over at an extremely fast speed. It just so happened that the mountain road was very straight, giving the other party a chance to burst out with speed. Ling Han turned around to look, only to see that the other party was whistling over. Behind him, rings of sonic boom clouds rose up, vibrating in all directions. However, they only swept up a few rocks and did not cause any major damage. This mountain was obviously reinforced by a formation. Otherwise, it would not be so strong. Ling Han did not run. Although this person was in the secret realm, he had just stepped into this realm. If he showed all his trump cards, he would still stand a chance. Hand over the divine stone and I will spare your life. The person shouted, using a secret force to push his voice over. Otherwise, only his mouth could be seen moving, but not a trace of sound could be heard. Ling Han smiled faintly and took out his warhammer. This was his attitude. You're courting death. The person snorted and took out a short stick from his back. With a shake, a section appeared on both ends, and one end even had a spear tip. In an instant, it turned into a long spear. He stabbed with the spear. The lines on the body of the spear lit up as if it had come to life and turned into a divine dragon. Ling Han swung his hammer and smashed it. Lightning flashed. Fuck, a one-star ritual implement. The person could not dodge in time and was hit. Even if he was in the secret realm, he was still shaken. Chapter 3548. This should have been arranged by Hong Tianbu to target his void beast skin, heavenly pattern jade, and tombstone fragments. As expected, the one who understood him the most was still his enemy. Hong Tianbu could be considered a formidable opponent. His talent in martial art was extremely high, his luck was extremely good, and his intelligence was always on point. Interesting. Ling Han decisively gave up on the idea of attacking. He thought that it was fortunate that Hong Tianbu's intentions were not more vicious. If there was only one secret-seeking realm here, and they deliberately lured him to attack, but in fact, there were a large number of experts arranged in the surroundings. I say, why did you drag the two of us here? The three people conversed. Yeah, don't forget you're the bait. Fuck, I can't forget the scene of Ma Qiuling being slapped unconscious. That brat has a treasure that can conceal his figure. What if I die? If I die, I won't have any treasures. But you can't call us here without permission, right? Yeah. Hee, why don't we swap? Which one of you will guard here? I'll go to the back. After listening, Ling Han could not help but break out in a cold sweat. It was not that Hong Tianbu did not think of it, but that these people messed it up themselves. What a vicious fellow, he had even calculated Ling Han's thoughts. He knew that Ling Han encountered a secret-seeking realm that was ambushed alone, yet he still dared to attack. Who asked him to hold back his anger? But if he attacked, he would really fall into Hong Tianbu's trap. Vicious, truly vicious. At least, Ling Han would not be able to betray his companions or allies like this, but Hong Tianbu had done it without the slightest hesitation. It was unknown how he had deceived others in the past, but he had even managed to deceive a mystery-seeking realm. Until now, this secret-seeking realm was afraid after thinking about it, and called his close companions over, coincidentally running into Ling Han. Xiao, a figure flashed, only to see Jin Yulu leaping over, her face full of displeasure. What are the two of you doing here? Go back. Ling Han no longer had the mood to continue watching, and quietly retreated. He felt a strong pressure. If his strength was strong enough, then even if this was a trap, he could completely step into it. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes were useless. Strength. Ling Han quietly passed through this area, then untied the void beast skin and stuffed it into the energy-nourishing gourd. It was not convenient for him to travel while wearing this thing. After all, it did not grow out of his body, and if he ran too fast, he would expose himself. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. Without hesitation, he pushed the perverted pig behind him. Puff, an attack landed on Luo Zhu's body. Although Luo Zhu was a weakling, his defense was invincible under the immortal path. No, this was not defense, but a kind of absorption ability that completely dissolved the power of the attack. But it hurts, asshole. Perverted pig let out a blood-curdling screech as tears streamed down his face. Ling Han turned his head and saw Hong Tianbu standing behind him with a sword in his hand. The tip of the sword was stabbed into the perverted pig's body, but it was unable to penetrate any further. Hong Tianbu had a look of disbelief on his face. Even such a sword was unable to kill Ling Han. Shua, he struck again. Ling Han did not care. Activating so close, yet worlds apart, he instantly disappeared. Peng, after activating so close, yet worlds apart for the second time, he crashed into a mountain peak. Even his nose was bleeding. He gritted his teeth, reflecting on his actions as he ran. Hong Tianbu's thoughts were really meticulous. He knew that the previous trap might have been seen through by Ling Han, so he laid in ambush at a position even further behind. In this way, if the previous trap worked, it would only be a matter of a while for him to rush back. If Ling Han did not fall for the trap, then he should be at ease here. If he used the normal method to travel, then launching a sneak attack should be a sure thing. Ling Han blamed himself. He clearly knew that Hong Tianbu's thoughts were vicious and his intelligence was extremely high, but how could he still be careless? He had still slightly underestimated Hong Tianbu. Luckily, he had held back and did not stuff Luo Zhu into the energy-nourishing gourd. Otherwise, even if that sword did not hit his heart, it would have caused serious damage to him. This was the price of carelessness. Ling Han took out some medicine and applied it to his nose. He deeply reflected on himself. In such a dangerous place, he could not afford to have the slightest bit of carelessness or luck. After reflecting on himself, Ling Han continued on his way. Previously, he was in a panic and went astray. When he returned to the main road, he once again used the void beast skin to make himself invisible. In this place, he could be said to be surrounded by enemies, so he had to be careful. Now, no one would care about his identity as the head of the External Affairs House. They all wanted to kill him and snatch the God's Stone. After returning to the right path, Ling Han continued up the mountain. When night fell, he was still on his way. He planned to rest during the day. This way, if he was upside down, his safety would be greatly increased. Early the next morning, he stopped and began to cultivate. After that, he rested. The power of heaven and earth was incomparably vigorous, as if it had a life of its own. He only needed to gently attract it, and there would be endless power rushing into his body. This was because the environment of heaven and earth had changed greatly again. Or was it because he was on Misty Peak? The power of heaven and earth here was even denser. Forget it. Ling Han activated the Monkey King's technique and combined it with the Stone Wall's supplementary technique, pushing the meridians in his body to expand. This efficiency was too shocking. After half an hour, Ling Han's cultivation advanced a lot. At this speed, he did not need any treasured medicine at all. At most, he could reach the peak of Four-Vein Realm in half a month. Ling Han's heart was thumping. If he could maintain this speed, then he would be at the peak of Five-Vein Realm in a month, and then at the peak of Six-Vein Realm in a month and a half. When he broke through to Seven-Vein Realm, wouldn't he really have the strength to fight against the Mystic Realm? He was full of anticipation. These days of being hunted and targeted, he had long held back his anger. He wanted to counterattack. During the day, he hid in the spirit-nourishing gourd to rest. As long as he found a hidden place to hide the gourd, it could be said to be extremely safe. At night, he came out again and continued on his way. He did not walk for long before he found a bonfire in front of him, surrounded by many people. Hong Tianbu, Jin Yulu, and the others were all sitting by the bonfire. There must be treasures here, Ling Han said in his heart. Otherwise, with Hong Tianbu's arrogance, how could he mingle with these people? He moved slightly closer, ready to eavesdrop on these people's conversation. However, these people were all talking nonsense, and there was no important point, which made Ling Han feel extremely bored. Just when he was about to leave and find out what was going on by himself, these people suddenly changed the topic and finally talked about what he wanted to know. It turned out that these people found an ice essence stone here. The ice essence stone was not a divine stone for immortal foundation building. It was a type of treasure that assisted in cultivation and could gather the power of heaven and earth. The reason why the power of heaven and earth here was so dense was because of the ice essence stone. Chapter 35-49. No wonder these people refused to leave. The ice stone could gather the power of heaven and earth. Even after entering the celestial path, it still had a strong supporting effect. However, the ice stone was difficult to obtain, so these people were discussing how to get it. Ling Han left quietly and came to the place according to these people. This was a steep mountain wall, and there was a pine tree on the mountain wall. It was as tall as a person, and at the top of the pine tree, there was a jade-colored stone that was smaller than a fist, emitting an incomparably weak light. That was the ice stone. Why was it difficult to obtain? Although the ice stone was placed at a very high place, it was not easy to climb a rock in the mystic realm. Moreover, didn't the Demon Clan and Sea Clan have birdmen? Wouldn't it be easy to fly up in their original forms and obtain the stone? That was because there would be a huge pressure after leaving the ground. Otherwise, the lake would be too easy to cross. As long as one spread their wings and flew, even the octopus would be helpless. Because of this, there was nothing the crowd could do. They could only watch from below. But the ice stone was so precious, who would be willing to leave it? Ling Han also raised his head to look. How was he supposed to obtain this treasure? Unfortunately, the people behind were too close. Otherwise, Ling Han could use the heavenly pattern jade to try smashing it. Wait, could Sixth Baby do it? Ling Han called Sixth Baby out and said, "There's a suppression here. Can you break through this barrier?" "I'll try," Sixth Baby said in a childish voice. She had an invisibility effect, so she was not afraid of being exposed. Ling Han could not see her, so he could only wait. After a while, Sixth Baby's voice sounded. "Dad, this suppression is too strong. I can't do anything about it." Even Sixth Baby couldn't do anything about it? Ling Han sighed. Could it be that he could only watch helplessly? He decided to take the risk. This treasure was too precious. He already had the Myriad Star Stone, so his trip to Ethereal Peak could be said to be successful. Even if he could not obtain other divine stones, he did not care. However, the Ice Origin Stone was a treasure that he had to obtain. He began to climb the peak, slowly climbing up. After crawling for a few feet, a powerful pressure assaulted him, and the void beast's skin instantly fell off his body. It was only wrapped, so it was naturally unreliable. When the pressure was great, it immediately fell off. Ling Han grabbed the beast's skin, but did not put it on. It was not easy to maintain his current posture. Fortunately, Hong Tianbu and the others were discussing how to obtain the Ice Origin Stones. No matter how intelligent Hong Tianbu was, he would not have guessed that Ling Han would actually dare to take such a risk out of desperation. Ling Han continued to climb. The pressure was like a mountain, and sweat was rolling down his forehead like rain. However, he could still bear it. Ling Han climbed higher and higher. In reality, he had already surpassed the limits that most people could reach. This was because this pressure varied according to one's realm and was not absolute. It grew taller and taller until it was only 10 feet away. But at this time, the pressure was like a mountain, and it was difficult for him to move. Ling Han's speed was getting slower and slower. Every time he moved, his bones would make a cracking sound. There seems to be a sound. Not far away, Hong Tianbu and the others were discussing, but there were always people with especially sharp ears who heard the cracking sounds of bones. He turned around to look and couldn't help being shocked. "There's someone up there." When the others heard this, they all looked over. "Who is it?" Heavens, he can actually climb so high. He's about to obtain the Ice Origin Stones. Everyone cried out in alarm. This made them shocked. This level made them envious, and not a single one of them could reach it. Ling Han, Hong Tianbu blurted out, his face filled with shock. No matter how much he thought he understood Ling Han, he would never have imagined that Ling Han would dare appear so brazenly and directly obtain the Ice Origin Stones. However, he immediately revealed a cold smile. This time, Ling Han had walked right into the trap. "Listen to my arrangements," Hong Tianbu said. "Don't alarm him for now. Let him obtain the Ice Origin Stones, then surround him." Senior Apprentice Sister Jean, set up the dragon locking formation so he can't use so close, yet worlds apart. He casually arranged it, but it cut off all of Ling Han's possible escape routes, displaying his powerful control ability. Everyone obeyed his orders. Although a fight was unavoidable after they took down Ling Han, they were willing to work together before that. Ling Han naturally saw the situation below, but since he had decided to take the risk, he naturally expected this possibility. He didn't panic at all and only continued to climb up. His current speed was calculated by the inch. He climbed up inch by inch, and for every inch he climbed up, he had to pay a huge price. All of the bones in his body kept cracking, as if they could shatter at any time. But when it came to the toughness of bones, Ling Han was definitely number one below the celestial path. Because he had gone through bone honing 7 times, the toughness of his bones was incomparable even in the mystic-seeking realm. 7 feet more, 5 feet more, 1 foot more. Ling Han stretched out his hand, and the ice origin stones were within reach. Everyone watched, and their hearts were in their throats. They all hoped that Ling Han could succeed. Only after he succeeded could they seize the ice origin stones from Ling Han. Ling Han's hand reached out and touched the ice origin stone. He grabbed the stone, and he stored it into the origin nurturing gourd. He looked down below. Everyone was waiting for him to come down, and once he landed, everyone would attack him at the first instant to seize the ice origin stones, myriad star stones, and so on. However, since he dared to take the risk, he definitely had a backup plan. Ling Han took out the heavenly pattern jade, and then attached the origin nurturing gourd to it, compressing it with his telekinesis. Everyone will meet again. He smiled, and suddenly tossed out the heavenly pattern jade. His telekinesis caught up, and his entire person immediately entered the origin nurturing gourd. The heavenly pattern jade tore through space and shot out. It immediately recovered to its 5,000 kilograms weight, and shot out with an unstoppable momentum. No one dared to block it. 5,000 kilograms, even if it was only 7 times the speed of sound, its power was still extremely terrifying. At least, it was not something that secret-seeking realms could block. Whoever blocked it would die. After all, the heavenly pattern jade itself was a 2-star material. The heavenly pattern jade shot out a certain distance, and suddenly, a ripple appeared in the air, as if it had been pierced. It was a formation set up by Jin Yulu, but it could not restrain the heavenly pattern jade at all, and was directly penetrated. Even Hong Tianbu did not expect that Ling Han would break out of the encirclement in such a way, and he even succeeded. In an instant, the heavenly pattern jade shot out a very, very long distance, and a heavy sound came from afar. The heavenly pattern jade weighed 5,000 kilograms, and colliding with it at such a speed, the destructive power was terrifying. Chase! Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they all rushed out. They suddenly realized that Ling Han had suddenly disappeared, and he must have entered the gourd. This gourd could contain living things, and it was incomparably precious. Even true Lord Spirit transformation would be tempted by it. Whether it was the myriad star stones, ice origin stones, or the origin nurturing gourd, any one of them was a precious treasure that could make people break their heads for it. Chapter 3550. Ling Han immediately came out of the gourd, activated imminent skyline, and instantly disappeared from the spot. By the time Hong Tianbu and the others arrived, the place was already empty. In the distance, Ling Han smiled and traveled under the cover of the night. This time, Hong Tianbu must be very distressed. After a night, Ling Han took out the ice origin stone and began to cultivate. This could gather the power of heaven and earth. With the ice origin stone as the center, the closer the distance, the denser the power of heaven and earth. After Ling Han used the Monkey King technique, he found that the power of heaven and earth was so dense that it seemed to have materialized. He did not even need to actively absorb it as it drilled into his body. After activating the supplementary cultivation method, his cultivation speed skyrocketed like a rocket. Previously, he could still cultivate several times faster when he was far away. Now that he directly held the ice origin stone and cultivated, it was ridiculously fast. After half an hour, Ling Han had a strange look on his face. Originally, he estimated that it would take about 15 days to break through to the fifth vein, but now he only needed one more day. Exaggerated, too exaggerated. However, Ling Han used his pupil sorcery to take a look and found that the ice origin stone was slightly smaller. Although it was a very subtle change, it was true. In other words, this was actually a consumable. What a pity, how good would it be if the effect could last forever? Ling Han thought discontentedly. But according to the current consumption speed, it was more than enough to help him break through to the enlightening state. He kept the ice origin stone, entered the gourd, and began to rest. At night, the milk babies came out one after another. They were too bored. The group continued up the mountain, and after a while, a sea of flowers appeared in front of them. This was truly an ocean of flowers. There were red, purple, yellow, and all sorts of colors. They were incomparably bright. But this seemed to be planned. The same flowers all grew in the same place, incomparably orderly. Ling Han walked into the sea of flowers, but the scenery in front of him changed immediately. The seemingly ordinary flowers suddenly seemed to have become towering trees. And what was going on? He was surprised that the flowers suddenly became bigger. No, it was he who became smaller. Ling Han took a few steps back, but everything immediately returned to its original state. The flowers only reached his knees. Interesting. He wanted to go around the sea of flowers, but found that there were cliffs on both sides. It was impossible to go around. He had no choice but to enter the sea of flowers and advance quickly. Soon, he crossed the flower field and a tall purple tree appeared in front of him. Of course, these were originally purple flowers and plants, but now they had become purple trees with bright leaves and huge flowers. Ling Han continued to move forward. In less than 10 minutes, he passed through the flower field again. In front of him was a large yellow tree. He crossed one field after another, and soon he frowned. Why did it seem like there was no end to it? No, he remembered that there were only 20 flower fields here, but he had already passed through at least 21. He wanted to climb up the tree, but as soon as his hand touched it, he immediately retracted it. He saw that his palm was bright red and itchy. You can't touch this grass. It's poisonous. Ling Han hurriedly took out some water to wash it, but it was still too late. In just a short while, his right hand had become strangely swollen, at least 4 times its original size, like a pig's trotter. Haha. The milk babies all laughed loudly. The fat pig was also gloating, and it let out a gurgling laugh. Ling Han sighed. The poison was not serious, and it would not cause any serious damage to him. It was just that it was very itchy, so itchy that it was unbearable. He tried to tie some clothes on his hand, but there was a layer of oil on the flowers and plants, which was highly corrosive and could easily rot his clothes. Obviously, this method would not work. If he could stand on the top of the tree and see everything, it would naturally be very easy to get out. However, the situation now was different. How to get out? Was this a soul-trapping array? The key was that Ling Han did not find any traces of an array. He used his eye sorcery, but still could not see anything. Dad, don't waste your energy. This is a natural terrain, second baby said. Dad, you have not stepped into the path of immortality, so it is impossible for you to see the general trend formed by heaven and earth. Even you can't see through it? Ling Han asked. Second baby shook his head. Unless I grow a little older. Are we going to walk around here until the end of time? Ling Han murmured. Dad, don't be so pessimistic. The general trend formed by heaven and earth will always give people a chance of survival, second baby said. So, Dad, you just have to wait and see. The worst-case scenario is to wait for a few days and wait for this trend to disappear on its own, eldest baby said. When heaven and earth move, the trend will change in strength. When it moves to a certain point, the power of the array will be at its highest, and at another point, it will weaken to 0. In other words, we have to wait until the trend of heaven and earth is at its weakest before we can go out, Ling Han said. Theoretically, that is true, but we can't rule out the possibility that you will be so lucky that you can walk out with your eyes closed, third baby said with a smile. Since this is a psychedelic array and there is no danger, I believe it will not be difficult to walk out. Ling Han did not give up. He kept walking around in the flower field, but no matter how he turned, he could not walk out. This was the general trend of heaven and earth, a natural array. If he wanted to break it, he would have to wait until he stepped into the path of immortality. The night passed, and he began to cultivate. He took out the ice essence stone and held it in his hand. Immediately, the power of heaven and earth rolled over. Half an hour later, Ling Han stopped, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He had already cultivated to the peak of 4-vein level, and he would be able to break through to 5-vein level in the next moment. Suddenly, he felt a sense of danger. He stood up and looked to the side, only to see a man stealthily approaching. When he saw Ling Han's eyes looking over, his expression immediately became awkward. This person had wanted to kill suddenly, but he did not expect to be caught red-handed by Ling Han. Xiao, the person was stunned for a moment, and then immediately attacked Ling Han. This was naturally a mystery-seeking realm cultivator. He held a sword in his hand, and as the sword chi danced, mud and dust rose up along the way. Ling Han struck out with a murderous aura, and the person was instantly stifled. However, there was a huge disparity between their realms, and this stillness only lasted for a moment before he immediately attacked again. But this stillness gave Ling Han enough time to react. Ling Han took out his warhammer and fought fiercely with the person. However, this person's Dharma artifact was also at the 1-star level. Ling Han did not have the slightest advantage, and soon he seemed to be struggling. "I'm not playing anymore." Ling Han laughed and put all the milk babies back into the gourd. Currently, the most important thing was to break through to the enlightenment realm. As long as he could advance to this level, the mystery-seeking realm was nothing in his eyes. There was no need to waste time. "Don't run." The person stabbed out with his sword. Ling Han did not even turn his head, and used Perverted Pig to block behind him. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.